One of Sean Combs' latest girlfriends takes the stand under a pseudonym. On the stand, her name is Jane Doe, and she is about to tell the jurors about her relationship with Sean Combs, with Diddy, up until his arrest. So all of the previous witnesses that we've had, most of them, like Diddy and Cassie broke up in 2018. That's like 7 years ago. Same thing with Mia. They stopped working together for a very long time. I mean, it's been almost a decade. With Jane, she has been there up until his arrest. She was dating him November of 2023 when Cassie Ventura drops her lawsuit.
Okay.
Then in 2024, I believe it was May, the CNN video drops.
CNN video is the hotel.
Yes, the Intercontinental Hotel video of Sean Combs assaulting Cassie. Jane is actually in Sean Combs' bed. They're both asleep. The sons come knocking on the door and they're like, you gotta come downstairs. Something is happening. They all go downstairs. There's like a massive huddle. Everybody is like, the energy is so tense. Jane says she wants to throw up because this is her first time watching the video as well. She's there. And then 6 months later, September of 2024, Diddy goes to New York City, and this is when he gets arrested in New York City. Jane is actually about to fly from LA to New York City to meet up with him. So clearly, there are so many moments that people are gonna wanna know more about because, what do you mean? This is like one of his latest girlfriends. She was with him up until his arrest. But there's this one moment in court where it just feels like the entire courtroom kind of doesn't know how to respond to the things that Jane is saying on the stand. I mean, it's such a big part of the case since day one, but nobody talks about this part on a deep level. It feels like a giant elephant in the room, which is, we know what Diddy has done, but why does Diddy like to watch other men have intimate relations with his girlfriends? I mean, so much so that he clearly puts his girlfriends in emotionally tough positions where it's alleged that they don't really consent to it, that they're coerced into doing these things. It's like a fixation that he has. He needs to watch this happen for days at a time, once a week. This activity takes up like what, 15, 20% of his life? If all the testimonies on the stand have been accurate? I mean, the question of whether or not all parties consented, whether or not this is legal, that's up to the 12 jurors to decide. But the question of why he's even into this is just kind of always like lingering in the air. People talk about it in the hallways, but everyone's like, I don't really know. I mean, maybe it's like a kink, I guess. Like, it's just lingering. Even at the hotel nights, Jane, so she doesn't call them freak-offs. He would call them hotel nights with her. And then with other assistants, he started calling them king nights. So there's different variations. Freak-offs, hotel nights, king nights. Jane says that she would have to engage in certain conversations with the men that were invited. Combs would be watching and she's asked, what are some examples of the things you would say in these rooms at hotel nights during these 3 years or 3.5 years? I would say a lot of cheating role play, that they would be, that Sean left town and I'm all alone with me and whoever, and I'm sneaking in this entertainer and it's just me and this entertainer, and I'm just fantasy talking about how Sean's on a plane and I couldn't wait to get this entertainer all alone to myself, etc.
Meanwhile, he's in the corner.
Yes, and one of the entertainers actually, many of them, they say that he's very distracting in the corner because he's very loud with his self-pleasuring movements. So she's like having all this fantasy role play talk while he's just like in the corner. And when that's not happening, Jane says, even when they were not at the hotel nights, aka the freak-offs, Combs would ask Jane to FaceTime the entertainers, have intimate video calls with them, while she secretly screen mirrors her phone onto a giant TV for Combs to watch. So I'm assuming it's like her video calling these entertainers being like, he's out of town, let's have a steamy video call, and he's like watching on the TV.
And does the entertainer know that this is,
She said specifically she did not tell them because she wanted them to feel comfortable. Sometimes Sean Combs would just ask her to ask the entertainer for pictures of their private parts so that they could both look at them. Jane says about these pictures, Combs would say like, get them to send you something or FaceTime them or get them to send you something, and so they would. Jane says in the middle of their relationship, sometime in 2022, she actually comes across a word because she's trying to figure out what their relationship is at this point and why Combs wants her so desperately to engage in these activities with other men in front of him, and she doesn't even enjoy it. She says, I came upon a word that was called cock, and the whole gallery, I mean, literally there are members of the press coming to the edge of the seat now. They're like leaning forward because she has such a soft-spoken voice. Combs, on the other hand, he's not happy. He does not like this line of questioning. He is frozen, and then he starts shaking his head ever so slightly, like, no. Jane is further asked, what is that? That is a man who is in a relationship with a woman, and he's turned on watching his woman have sex with another man. I was just trying to kind of deep dive on all the reasons why they had derived so much pleasure from watching their women be with other men. I just wanted to know why my partner wanted so many of these nights and what was driving him. I was just trying to find an understanding of it that he wasn't vocal about.
Is she being questioned by the prosecutor or by the defense attorney?
The defense.
Oh.
So what was your understanding of what you learned? I mean, there was a multiple list of reasons. One of them was that the cuck derives pleasure seeing his woman receive pleasure from the other man, and a few other things. It feels like Jane does not want to say what other things. What are some of the other things? Some of the other things were that cucks could also have a bi-curiosity, that they're too ashamed to experience themselves, and so they use the woman to venture out in this curiosity without actually doing the act itself, which I felt like a lot of dots were connecting in the gallery because it makes sense. Now, this is obviously presumptuous. We don't know Combs' sexuality, but it would make sense psychologically that if he does not want to engage in any sort of loving commitment with Jane after these hotel nights, perhaps it's because he wants to be Jane. He's jealous. So there was like lots of dots connecting in the gallery. A lot of people were whispering about it in the hallways after of all of their theories, but we're not psychologists, so we don't really know.
Wait,
but these are moments, yes.
What you say he doesn't want to engage with Jane after these hotel nights?
He will have intimate relations, but he will not have romantic moments with Jane, which is all she was wanting for. So some people are theorizing, we're armchair psychologists in the hallways of this courthouse. They're just saying maybe it's because he wants to be Jane. He doesn't love Jane. He wants to be Jane. You know, he wants to be in that position. Others are saying, no, it's more degradation. Like he just wants to humiliate women. So it's kind of up in the air. Nobody really knows. And a lot of the jurors, as Jane is saying this, they're snapping their heads to look at Sean Combs, and he is statuesque. None of his family and friends have any sort of response either. Would voyeurism or escapism also fit this fantasy? Jane thinks about it for a second and says, no, I think I would use the word cock for him more so. A few of the people in the gallery cock their heads a little bit. But what's even more interesting in this is this line of questioning, like I said, is not coming from the government. This line of questioning is coming from Tenny Garagos, Combs' own counsel. If Sean Combs looks upset about where this is going, why is Tenny Garagos asking Jane this? It doesn't seem like Sean Combs wants to associate his lifestyle with those terms. And I say lifestyle loosely because this is a trafficking case. But perhaps it's embarrassing. But it might be the best shot that the defense has. The defense needs the jurors to believe that Sean Combs is not a monster. He is not committing crimes. He is just a cuck. We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the New York Immigration Coalition. They are an umbrella policy and advocacy organization that represents over 200 immigrant and refugee right groups throughout New York. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support. Some of the quotes and statements have been shortened, combined, and condensed for brevity. Today's episode has a few content disclaimers regarding mentions of domestic violence, physical and sexual assault, and trafficking, so please take a break if you need to. You guys also know the drill. At the time of filming this episode, Diddy is innocent until proven guilty, and all the charges that he's been indicted on are still alleged. Any and all observations from me, my researchers, have happened in real time inside the courtroom, and they are just observable actions. I'm like, hey, I saw Sean Combs scratch his head and mouth these words to somebody. That doesn't mean I know the intention behind these actions. That doesn't mean I know what Sean Combs is thinking. That doesn't mean I know if he's guilty or innocent of the charges that he has been charged with. It just means I saw him scratch his head. So with that being said, let's get into it. Where to find the gold of all the powerful? One secures the gold of the spirit when he finds himself. When he finds himself, he finds freedom and all riches, achievement, and prosperity. That is literally what Sean Combs is reading in court. He walks into the courtroom most days now with a new little book. He has ditched the Bible. He has replaced it with this bright red book with this orange circle in the middle. It was giving a little bit culty. Nobody could get a good read on it.
Wait, so his like truth journal is gone too?
No, he has his truth journal. He's got this little accordion file thing
like
that opens
folder.
up, and he's got the little truth journal. He hasn't been whipping it out as obviously these days. I haven't seen truth written on there since the first 2 times. Yeah, now he just like, he shoves it in, he did the little sleeping thing, and then now I'm like, it's either out already, but like we get there before he gets there. It's weird. So nobody could get a good read on this book. And I'm like scooching to the side, squinting. I'm like trying to see if I could smuggle in a magnifying glass, but I also don't want to get kicked out of the courtroom. I'm trying to see what the hell this book is. I come home, Google it, bright red cover, orange circle in the middle. There are certain quotes in the book that read, thoughts have a creative of controlling force in the exact ratio of their constancy, intensity, and power, comparable to the wavelength and wattage of a broadcast system. What you exhibit outwardly, you are inwardly. You are the product of your own thoughts. What you believe yourself to be, you are. Desire is the generating power of all human action, and without it, no one can get very far.
Okay.
I just like, maybe the part that he takes a little too seriously is the part in the book that reads, success is a matter of never ceasing application. You must forever work at it diligently, otherwise it takes wings and flies away, which there have been never ceasing applications from the defense team. So maybe he's taken it too literally. The book also has special appearances to talk about how persuasive Hitler, Stalin, and Japanese warlords are. So there's that. That is the magic of believing. While I'm sure it's a great book with a lot of great points made throughout, it is interesting that this is the book that Sean Combs decides to pick up mid-trial. I mean, perhaps he genuinely loves the book and he's just in his studious era. Or it's the intellectual defendant who has a desire to do the inner work ploy. Because at one point he starts reading the book mid-testimony, and I was trying to count the seconds of how long he's on one page, because I'm like, I don't believe this man is actually reading this book right now, because I can barely read books when I'm so immersed into a case that have nothing to do with the case, because my brain is just not registering it. There are more high stakes things going on, and he is the defendant of his own criminal federal trial, and you're reading a book in the middle of the court day. So I'm like, I don't think you're reading. I think this is fake. So I'm counting all the seconds on how long he's on the same page, which I will say was a very long time. And one of his attorneys whispers something. He puts the book away and then slams his right cheek into his right hand like a little child that just got scolded. It's very interesting.
So it's a book about like a lot of attraction.
Yes.
Almost.
Manifestation. I keep interrupting you today. I'm sorry.
No,
yes.
no.
About manifestation. Yeah. Now, the rest of the defense team are also in a funk. Donaldson is walking into the courtroom just talking to himself. Usually he's engaged with everyone in the room. He's a socializer, but today he's muttering to himself, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. He says it twice to nobody in particular. He looks like he's aged 2 years in the past, 48 hours. Brian Steele, on the other hand, he's having a good time. Him and Nicole Westmoreland, they're like, we're flying back home probably in a month. I'm excited, okay? Brian Steele is texting. His font is literally the largest setting that you can place on the iPhone. It's massive. I'm like, sir, you are so lucky we're not trying to read your text messages right now. It's giving dad vibes. And when Nicole Westmoreland walks in with a Prada bag, he greets her, Nicole West money.
Who?
Brian Steele greets Nicole Westmoreland as Nicole Westmoney, and now we can't not call her Nicole Westmoney. It just rolls off.
So they're pretty relaxed.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised that they're so relaxed, because Brian Steele has been, I think, unconsensually taking the villain role of this trial. I can see that he seems very depresso during those days, which makes sense, because I was talking to someone who used to be an attorney, and they were like, that's kind of what happens when you have such a big defense team. You don't want every defense member to be a bad guy. You need one bad guy that does all the bad stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you're saying that every day you go in there, all these attorneys total different energy every single day.
Every single day. It's to the point where if we have a witness on the stand, the press pews are kind of calculating who's going to do the cross-examination. Because sometimes Nicole Westmoney walks in, just like bright colors. Or like very tight-fitted clothes. And when you're standing on the lectern, everyone is staring at your entire figure, the back of your figure. So sometimes when she's wearing super tight-fitted clothes, the press pews are like, nah, she's not doing the cross today. So everybody's got a different energy. Brian Steele, anytime he's talking or doing a cross, he is in his own world. He does not look like he is registering his environment. When he's not, he's like giddy. Nicole Westmoney's walking in. He's having a good time.
Interesting. And this is like day one of Jane's.
Yes.
Okay. So, and it's going to last 5 days,
like
6 days.
Now, Father Arun is also not immune to dad vibes either. Everybody's just becoming more of a dad as the trial progresses. During one part where jurors are not present, they're going over summary charts. Summary charts are given to the jurors at the very end, and it's like compiled evidence from both sides. He says, can we cut down this exhibit so that it achieves that purpose without being 49 pages worth of text messages? He's talking to the government, some of which appear to be for non-illicit purposes, such as the text message on April 23rd, 2023, or on spending money on flowers. Prosecutor Slavic stands up. Your Honor, flower refers to marijuana. And there's like a little pause, and the judge and the gallery, they're all giggling at the miscommunication. And the judge is like such a champ. He's like, I stand corrected. Now, Jason Driscoll, Raspberry Air, has also been on the come up recently. He has been invited into Combs's inner circle.
He is like the youngest attorney on his side that's been quiet this whole time.
Okay, to give you an idea, Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos are founding partners of the law firm. Which founding partners, you're like the top dog. Alexandra Shapiro is a founding partner of her law firm. Brian Steele, I think him and his wife run his own law firm. Same with Nicole Westmoney and Donaldson. The only random person is Anna Esteveo is also part of a firm, but I think she's like a partner. She's been kind of quiet recently. But Jason Driscoll is an associate at Alexandra Shapiro's firm. And he just looks so young compared to the rest of the defense team members who all have like white hairs, except for maybe Tenny Garagos and Shapiro and Esteveo. He looks like he was born yesterday in the best way possible. So we're sitting there like, he's got to be doing something right, because Alexandra Shapiro does not seem like the type of bring your son to work day type of person. She's only going to put someone on her team in this case if she thinks that they're worth it. So we thought he's a dark horse, like something's going to happen. He's going to be on the come up, and we were right. He's been talking a lot lately. He went up against Comey recently, and the judge sided in his favor. Although I do think that maybe the deck was stacked better for him. And it's very interesting. Every morning he gets a more passionate dap up from Diddy now. He's been taking a lot more. And at one point when the judge does side with Jason Driscoll, Raspberry Air, he whips around. And my researcher was like dying at this because he does not smile. It's not goofy. He literally just gives like the most serious wink at Diddy. And Diddy and Mark Agnifilo are like, damn, we were not expecting this kid. It's very interesting, their interactions to watch. Even when he is talking to the judge, everybody's looking at him, like waiting to see how he handles it. He's also brought his wife, I believe, who sits with the friends and families of Sean Combs. And at one point, he's dapping up Diddy in the morning. Diddy, he's like, oh, I think my wife is over there. I don't really hear what Jason Driscoll is saying, but they point towards the family and friends. And the woman who comes with Jason Driscoll is waving at Diddy. And Diddy is like dramatically pointing at Driscoll, being like, he's good, thumbs up, he's good. But he is still not the smoothest attorney. Some mornings he will miss the dap up with Combs, so they just kind of awkwardly hug instead. Also, there's this awkward moment when he first starts talking and the court reporter doesn't know who the hell he is. So he's like, who are you?
The court reporter.
Yeah, and he's got to be like, Jason Driscoll. He handled it very well, but it is very interesting. But I don't know how long he's going to stay in Diddy's favor, because here's the thing with Diddy. Anytime any one of his attorneys doesn't get what Diddy wants, he just looks at them and kind of sighs. Like, this is so disappointing. I mean, they don't know a moment of peace, these defense attorneys. Mark Agnifilo is drinking water because all of them are getting sick, and Diddy is literally analyzing him drinking water, watching him fully turn to the side. Just watching him drink water. He can't even stay hydrated in solitude. Alexandra Shapiro, though, I will say, she does appear upset with everyone. She always looks stressed. She always is kind of scowling. She gives me tough love type of vibes, though, because anytime Driscoll loses a case with the judge and is trying to get something into evidence or not get into evidence, judge doesn't side with him. The rest of the defense team, they look disappointed. Alexandra Shapiro always mouths a very stern, good job. But it's like so aggressive. It just feels like so tough love.
She's basically his boss, right?
Yeah. And so even when he doesn't get the judge on his side, she's like, good job. But it's like very intense. I'm like, what is happening? There's so many different dynamics. This would make me cry. Alexandra Shapiro is also walking around with a massive tissue box. She has been going row by row, passing out tissues to each of the defense attorneys, who grab one and they just start honking their noses into it. Every single person in this courtroom is sick again. A few days ago, there is a sketch artist that sits right behind the defense table. So there's two that sit on the right side in front of us. Sometimes one of them doesn't show up. Jane is always there. Then on the left side, there's another sketch artist, and she sits right behind Diddy and the defense team. She's in the very first row of the pew. She starts coughing, and it sounds, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds very juicy. Right in front of her is Combs, the defense team. Right behind her in the pew is the Combs family.
So she's sandwiched between Combs and Combs family.
Yes. Now, to be fair, there's another seat like directly behind Combs that's not a pew, that's not at the table. Two U.S. Marshals sit there.
Okay.
But they're just like watching Combs, right? So like she's like coughing on top of the U.S. Marshal, and it's just like going straight to Combs, and then behind her Combs family, and like mid-testimony she'll be hacking up a storm. The Combs family, I mean, at this point, some of the press pews were confused at how animated it was. Every time the sketch artist coughs, Combs family row, it's like a roller coaster. In unison, they back all the way up like they're accelerating on a Disney roller coaster ride.
Can you tell them who's on there?
Yes, so you've got Janice Combs, you've got Justin Combs. Now, it depends on the day. Sometimes it's just Justin. Other times it's Justin and Christian. And then other times it's Justin, Christian, and Quincy. The daughters have not shown up since the beginning of the trial. And then you've got Dana Tran, who is the mother of the youngest Combs child, Baby Love, who is, I believe, only like 2 years old. So they're all sitting there and they're just like leaning back in unison like a roller coaster ride, trying to get away from like the sprays of the cough. It's just so interesting to the point where even Justin is giggling at his grandma because of the way that they're trying to move away from these coughs. They all start masking up too because it's that bad. Even a few of the older jurors have started wearing masks after this. Court has to break for one moment because a juror is coughing so much they have to bring her water and cough drops. And so I'm telling you, everybody is getting sick. The entire defense team is coughing. It's like a nightmare tissue rotation. And we have never seen Sean Combs this sick. He's so congested all week. He's just aggressively rubbing his eyes and his scalp. He's like rubbing his eyes like he's trying to take out his retinas. He's itching his entire scalp. I think it's trying to soothe maybe sinus pressure. And he likes to pop cough drops into his mouth, but he chews them. I just know that this man bites his ice cream. That's all I have to say. And it's so interesting that there's this much going on during the testimony days. Mark Agnifilo has also gotten a new haircut, and I say this with so much respect because I was writing this down in my notes and so were the researchers independently of me because, again, I'm very terrified. Mark seems very intense, but he also seems like the type that would let his wife cut his hair. He walks in, new haircut, and my first thought was, I feel like Karen cut his hair. That was the feeling. And then later, a few days later, one of my researchers is outside. Mark walks into the courtroom. He's interacting with some of the press members a little bit, and he just shouts at someone complimenting his haircut, "My wife cut it." So my suspicions were correct. His whole energy is like the kid that gets a new haircut, comes into school and wants everyone to compliment his new haircut. He's like bouncing around. And I'm like, what is happening? How were they able to compartmentalize all of these things that are happening in the courtroom? He's also still filibustering. So last we heard was that Combs got yelled at by the judge for nodding at the jurors. That lasted like a day. He's back to nodding again. But Mark Agnifilo, Brian Steele, they're standing behind their client. And Mark is saying, one of the things I wanted to say, he's saying this to the judge, I'm a reasonable man and everyone can, and an approachable one. So if someone, my colleagues from the government, sees something, he's basically saying, I don't know why the government is tattletaling to the judge. They should tell me first. I would encourage them to come to me. I take these things very, very seriously. Now, in terms of what, I didn't see anything. I'm riveted, Your Honor. I'm riveted. Nodding is one of these things where it could be bad intentioned or it could not be bad intentioned. And so I didn't see it. If someone comes to me and says, I might disagree. They might say he's nodding and I might say, so what do you mean? Is that a problem? Or is it not a problem? And maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it is a problem. But without someone coming to me, kind of remedy this, it's a stitch in time saves 9 type thing.
So when he's like talking in this mannerism, right? It's like he's trying to be very like smooth and very like kind of clueless, like type of energy. What is the judge's reaction? Is he like,
okay,
like stop playing with me? Or is he like, all right, I know what you're doing? And
I think it's harder to yell at Agnifilo, the judge, because it's like, I know what you're doing. Like, we all know what you're doing. But I do see that maybe when Brian Steele comes in very hot and slightly aggressive, the judge shuts him down so quick and is like, no. Same with Alexandra Shapiro. They talk a little more aggressively with the judge. The judge is not having it.
I see.
Mark Agnifilo is always like, I mean, maybe it's a problem. Maybe it's not a problem. I didn't see anything. He's almost like, don't blame me. It's very weird.
So in a way, it worked.
Yes.
He usually can get away with some of these things because the way he talks. Okay.
Yeah. That being said, I take this matter very seriously. I've spoken to Mr. Combs. He's assured me he didn't mean anything by it. He was just reacting to the witness on the stand.
So like, judge told him not to nod. He stopped for a day and then he started nodding again. And now the judge is having another conversation?
No.
Oh.
Mark Agnifilo is just bringing it up. Like, maybe the government can just tell me.
Next time, if you see it.
They're basically trying to say we were taken aback that you yelled at Mr. Combs in front of everyone.
Oh, last time.
Yeah.
The time of the judge just kind of told him, I'm going to throw Combs out of here.
Yeah. And the judge is literally staring at Mark like, I get it, but I literally saw him. He says, I saw the interaction myself and the interaction was inappropriate and no one would have misunderstood my instruction that I had given about 30 minutes earlier. So I regarded that as being outright defiance of the court's order in that moment as to that one incident. AKA Father Arun is just not the one. Mm-hmm. So now the dynamics of the attorneys are ever changing. It's so interesting to watch, but a very interesting attorney does make an appearance last week. Cassie's attorney, Doug Wigder, is present again for one day of Jane's testimony.
Huh.
Why?
Yeah.
Jane is a pseudonym, but she is one of Sean Combs' latest girlfriends. And like I said, in fact, when Sean Combs was arrested September 16th of 2024, in the hotel room, Homeland Security found studio lighting, bottles and bottles of baby oil and Astroglide, as well as drugs. Jane was on her way to New York City. Not on the plane, but her plans were to fly to New York City to join him in the hotel, where they would presumably have formerly known as a freak-off, now known as a hotel night. When Jane walks into the courtroom, I saw a lot of people in the gallery kind of crinkle their eyebrows because even though she's testifying under a pseudonym, even in the bathroom before the court day started, people were hypothesizing. We were like, who is it? Is it a celebrity? Is it a celebrity that maybe wasn't so firmly connected in media outlets with Sean Combs, but like maybe they were dating because they're all part of that world? We were thinking all sorts of things. But when she walks in, you could just tell a lot of people don't know who she is. Like almost nobody really knows who she is. She is not a front-facing celebrity. You don't know Jane, don't look for Jane. She walks in kind of playing with her sleeves. She seems a little nervous, but not nearly as terrified as Mia appeared to be. Just general nerves. She gets on the stand and she starts talking and immediately the jurors are so deep in their notes. And it's interesting because I think it has to do with the timeline with Combs. This feels like so much fresh information. It feels more pertinent to the case. The jurors are taking in this testimony and even Combs, he has scooched his chair all the way back so he can get a better look at the witness. He scooched it so far back that the U.S. Marshal sitting behind him looks like he's on a Spirit flight now. And Combs does not care. He even taps Mark Agnifilo on the shoulder and asks him to scooch to the right so that he can scooch to the right and get a better look.
At the jurors?
No, at the witness. Because in front of him is a very tall Donaldson. So he's scooching. Maureen Comey is going to be doing the days-long direct examination of Jane. She kind of matches Jane's soft voice just a tad bit. I think she's so good at changing her tone. There is something about Maureen Comey. I think she would be a professional poker player. Like she could. She will shut people down, like the defense team. She will shut them down so quickly, but she never comes off bothered. She never comes off hostile or angry or aggressive or like shaken up. Whereas I think some of the defense attorneys, they seem like they're upset about something all the time. Like, Your Honor, blah, 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 and they're upset. Maureen Comey will be arguing, but she doesn't seem upset. She always, the way she walks into court every day, she's just always kind of shrugging and smiling. Like everything will be falling apart and the prosecutors are looking at her and she just gives them like a small shrug. She's always like, I don't know what the defense is up to. They're kind of dumb. That's her vibe.
Like she got this under control.
Yeah, she's like, let them do whatever they want to do. They're dumb. That's her vibe. But when she talks to Jane, she also has a very soft voice that feels genuine. And I was analyzing this throughout Maureen Comey's direct. A lot of people, they always say, da-da-da-da, right? Da-da-da-da, correct? Maureen Comey asks questions in such a natural way.
She doesn't go for the correct, right? Like the attorney type of questioning.
No, and she's very good with her pacing, very good with her tone. It's very interesting. Like when Jane starts crying, she actually seems sympathetic through her tone without saying anything sympathetic. What names did you call him when you were in a relationship with him? This is pretty much how they start. Jane looks up through her lashes and she smiles and she's got a really soft, dainty voice. Sean, baby, Ernie, Snookums. Like that's kind of her voice. One of the jurors giggles a little bit at the nicknames. I mean, giggle's a strong word. It's like a soft smile. So who are you? Bert. And who is he? Ernie. That's her voice. So like from Sesame Street? Yes. Jane tells the jurors when she first met Sean, this is in like late 2020. So this is very recent. This is 3 years before Cassie files her lawsuit. A lot of the testimonies we've heard are from way back. 2020, we're deep in the Brother Love era. Sean Combs wanted everyone to call him Brother Love starting in 2017, but he really starts going on talk shows around 2020. He releases the Love album in 2023. Jane ends up dating him up until his arrest in 2024. And so, which side note, why is he Brother Love? He says on a talk show, I decided to change my name again. I'm just not who I am before. I'm something different. So my name is Love, aka Brother Love. I will not be answering to Puffy, Diddy, Puff Daddy, or any of my other monikers but Love or Brother Love, okay? Well, the prosecutors are calling him Sean Combs and he's answering, so there's that. Regardless, he is Brother Love. Jane calls him Sean. They meet while Jane is on a girls' trip in Miami in late 2020. Jane gets invited to this girls' trip by a friend of hers, and that friend is dating Combs at the time. So Combs pays for that friend and Jane and a bunch of other girlfriends to go to Miami to have a girls' trip, which... It's the way that Sean Combs sits there. Anytime anyone brings up the fact that he paid for something that is not drugs or illegal substances or baby oil, he will look at the jurors like, yeah, I did that. And I'm just like, why? This is so goofy. Like the feds are trying to seize your assets.
Yeah.
No one cares that you paid for a girls' trip. Nevertheless, they are all on this girls' trip. They end up going over to Combs' Miami residence in Star Island one night. And Jen says, we went over there and I just saw Sean and he was really charming, really nice. I was already drawn to him like pretty instantly. He was hospitable, really sweet, really friendly. We had a nice night together. She talks a bit slower and she goes off to use the restroom at one point, bumps into him, and the two of them exchange phone numbers. That's when they give each other nicknames, Ernie and Bert, to save each other in the contacts. Now, Combs is glancing at the jury, again, with the energy of like, do you hear this? Are you writing notes? Because I guess it's not the best look for Jane to be texting her girlfriend's romantic interest whilst on a girls' trip with the girlfriend that's dating Combs.
Wow.
Yeah, sir, you're being charged with trafficking. Like, I don't think the jurors are like, oh my gosh, girl code has been broken. Like, the law could potentially be broken. The beginning of the testimony, aside from a few glances to Comey and perhaps the jury, Combs is very still. He looks sometimes like he's buffering. But Jane explains, while they're still on this girls' trip, Combs starts texting her while they're together, saying things like, I'd like to take you out. Jane says, I was just saying to him that I just felt it was a little complicated in the moment, but like, we'll be in touch. So you were texting during the movie? So all of them had seen a movie in his theater. Yes. And was the girlfriend of yours who was seeing Sean in the relationship with him there as well? Yes. So after the trip, the two of them keep in contact over text. Jane says Combs is pursuing her, asking her to come out to Miami, just her, but she's feeling uncomfortable about it because of her friend still has feelings for Sean. And then it all changes when, quote, my girlfriend ended up getting engaged and she moved overseas and became a fiance. And so I felt that she was okay and that I could potentially entertain this whole Sean thing. Their first date is when she goes back to Miami in January of 2021. He meets her at her hotel room and she says, I remember when I first saw Sean, he walks in the door of the hotel room and he was just like larger than life. He had a very big personality, super charming, very, very passionate, even just in how he speaks and just overall really charming. And he just immediately immersed in conversation with me. Their first date in that hotel room lasts 5 days. 5 days long.
They were in the hotel room for 5 days.
Yes. Which feels kind of like love bombing, but also, how do you have so much time? So during the first date that lasts a full business week, they talk about how Jane previously dated someone that Sean Combs was very close to, and that he said that's not a problem. Then they talk about the fact that Jane has a child. She's a mother to a child, one child, and her child's father and Combs are not friendly with each other, which made things more complicated. But Sean is like, no, don't even worry about it. And then Jane is like, okay, well, what about my girlfriend that you were dating? And he's like, we weren't even really dating. Like, we were more so like friends. So he's like, don't worry about anything. And they just have a wonderful time. Jane says, we made lots of love. I remember it was amazing. And I remember it was like morning time. And then we decided to go for a walk on the beach. Whenever Jane talks about her past with Combs, it is so fascinating because she appears to be incredibly love-struck. Even now, she says after the first date, she's head over heels for him. And in the beginning, you can kind of feel that most of the people in the courtroom don't really know what to make of it. Because, I mean, she's testifying against him. He's done allegedly very horrible stuff, but she's also saying things like, it was beautiful, we made lots of love, and she seems kind of shy about it, as if she seems still in love. And the next month, they end up going to Turks and Caicos as well as the Bahamas. So it's just back to back. He's like wooing her. What do you remember from the time you spent in Turks in February of 2021? I just remember so many lovely things. It was just really us, and so we just had a lot of connection and a lot of time together. As you would assume, just really passionate about one another, lots of attraction. It was very lust-filled. So this is the first trip that she takes ecstasy with Combs. Now, side note, they are there for like a week, more or less, and they do ecstasy 10 times. She says, I remember we were inside the pool and we were drinking and just having a good time. He opens his hand with a pill and he's like, here, take this. It'll just be more fun. Something like that. And so I end up taking the whole thing. Afterwards, she starts feeling like it's hitting too hard. I was walking down the beach with him and then it just hit me. And I just remember I fell to the ground and I started grabbing the sand and throwing the sand, and my body was just like almost convulsing. And I was like, I think I was screaming a little bit. And she's kind of doing like a shy smile as she's saying it, like she's embarrassed. Combs' chief of staff, KK, tries to help Jane, and she does end up feeling better after a shower. And it seems like after that, Combs starts decreasing the amount of ecstasy that he's giving her. But
wait, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Chief of staff,
Christina Coram.
yes, was right there.
Yes.
She saw it. She helped her to take a shower.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
And now,
Wow.
do they stop giving her drugs? Or are they like, you really shouldn't do any drugs? No, she says that Combs just starts decreasing the amount of ecstasy he starts giving her. She starts taking smaller doses, but her highs would still last 12 hours. Now, a lot of the jurors, they honestly start looking a little bored, but they start perking up more after this story of like the convulsing on the sand, because now they're like, oh, this is getting weird. Meanwhile, Jane looks really shy describing all these incidents, and Combs is just very intensely pinching the chin hairs with his right hand, staring at Jane. It's like a very, very scary Santa Claus. Now, side note, the Combs sons are in and out of the courtroom throughout the week that Jane is testifying. Like I said, one day it's just Justin. The next day it's all three of them. Sometimes just Justin and Christian, which, side note, they don't appear to be having the worst time with Jane's testimony, or in fact, the entirety of the trial. They are constantly passing notes to each other, smiling. It is a running comment at Rotten Mango that we are more stressed about this trial than some of the Combs sons, or some of the friends and family in the pews. If it were any other case, that would be an insane and perhaps unacceptable thing to say, but genuinely, their Instagram stories, like their thirst traps before court vibes, I just don't even know how that they can do that. I don't understand it. The way that they're mostly in their own little passing notes high school bubble in the pews, I am convinced that everyone in the press pews, everyone in the public pews is more exhausted from this trial than the sons. So at one point during Jane's testimony, a court officer, so not Officer Riz, right? They walk over to motion for Combs's bestie to wake up because he's asleep. Another day, Quincy comes in. He spends a good chunk of the day just twirling a red pen in his hand, and at some points he will slip it inside his long sleeve and itch his arm with it. This is a paid advertisement. You guys have heard my take on the trial. Now let's hear from a legal expert. Dan Morgan is a partner at Morgan & Morgan, and he's got some fascinating insights. He says, quote, one of the biggest surprises is how cautiously his legal team is playing it. Because a lot of people have described the case as, quote, a minefield for due process violations. And yet, according to Dan, quote, so far, we haven't seen the kind of sustained objections, motions for mistrials, or voir dire challenges that typically preserve those rights. Dan's legal recommendation is, in a case this explosive, you fight every inch of procedural ground, because if you don't, you're handing the appellate court a cold record and hoping for mercy. That is the kind of seasoned perspective you'd expect to find at Morgan & Morgan. With over 100,000 lawyers and more than 35 years of experience, they've recovered more than $25 billion for over 500,000 people, and not big fancy companies or people with tons of connections. Morgan & Morgan fights for the everyday person, similar to you and me. With Morgan & Morgan, it's easy to get started, and their fee is free unless they win. Just click the link in the description below or visit forthepeople.com/rotten. That's forthepeople.com/rotten, or click the link in the description below. During the vacation, Jane opens up that she's a single mom. She's working as a content creator, influencer, and because she couldn't work while on this trip, he ends up giving her $10,000 in cash at the end of the trip. After the end of that trip, how did you feel about Sean? I was even deeper in my feelings for Sean. I want to say we even started using the L word, and I was really deep in it. I really fell head over heels for him.
This is February 20...
This is, yes, February of 2021.
Right, so they met in January. This is February, right?
So they actually met in 2020. But she went to Miami for the first time in January of 2021. They went on Turks and Caicos February of 2021.
Got it.
So this is all happening like years before the lawsuit. And she just sounds so in love with this man. Even the way she says, we started using the L word instead of saying like we started saying we love each other. It just feels like a girl that's head over heels. Meanwhile, Combs is not even focusing. The sketch artist behind him will cough, and he quite literally turns around back and looks at her like, excuse you. In 2021, Jane moves to LA to be closer to Combs on the West Coast. Combs gives her $6,000 for a moving truck. She says, I just remember he was so sweet. He would give me money here and there. So for the beginning of Jane's testimony, Combs starts slowly looking less bothered, but that's about to change very soon. Jane and Combs had freak-offs, but they called them either debauchery or hotel nights. Jane says, I learned so many things. I learned how he liked to have playing. I learned how he preferred me to dress, and I just learned the things that he likes sexually. He preferred me to dress in provocative lingerie and really high, like, stripper heels. She would have to be in lingerie and stripper shoes for 12 to 24 hours at a time whilst high on drugs, whilst having intimate relations with Combs. He would have her rub baby oil all over herself. And what did Sean tell you to do with it? To just have it all over my body and his body? The interesting thing is, Combs is looking at Maureen Comey with this look of like, how dare you ask such personal questions? It's very uncouth of you. Sometimes the way he looks at her, you would think that she's asking these questions in church. In the beginning, Jane says that she loved all of her intimate moments with Combs. It was just her and Combs. We would have the red lights on. I loved them. I really loved my partner. And I was just making love with my partner like the whole time, and lots of affection and kisses and love making, and it was really wonderful. I felt like Sean was really passionate, and he brought out a lot of passion out of me, and the way he would compliment me and be so into me and just really like enjoying one another, like it just made me feel really good inside. So that's kind of the tone that she uses. But a few months after the Turks vacation, so this is like mid 2021, Jane says, she takes a deep breath and she says, I remember that just when we would watch, we started having a lot more of fantasy conversation. And she starts sobbing.
Oh.
Like, she hasn't even talked about what the conversation is, but clearly it's getting her so emotional. Do you need to take a break, Jane? No. Who initiated the fantasy conversation you're describing? Sean. And can you explain to us how he initiated that conversation? Just we would search specific things on websites, and just in the middle of it being high, he just really wanted me to fantasize or kind of talk about other men and this type of role play about other men. Jane starts dabbing her eyes with the tissue. She's like full on crying. And you said that he would want you to talk about other men. What did he tell you that he wanted you to say about these other men? It was more like a question like, do you like what you see there? Do you like that? Do you want that? Can you imagine that? Pretend that that's here and I'm that person. She says the very first night he brings this up with her, they've already been high on a mix of and ecstasy. They've been awake for 24 hours. And by this point, the past 12 hours, they've been watching videos and having intimate relations. And quote, he started saying that I can make this fantasy a reality. If you'd like to have that happen, I can make that happen. Because it just seemed like he wanted that and it was turning him on, and I was really into my partner, and I said, okay. Jane still is thinking maybe it's just a fantasy. I mean, she's just going along with it. She excuses herself to the bathroom, and by the time she comes out, Combs is in a robe, very serious, like very intently looking at his phone. He's like, we can make that happen tonight. Jane is like, tonight? Like, okay. I was taken aback, a bit surprised, but like, okay, because my partner was excited and it was already happening, and this was just something that we were gonna do. Instantly, Combs is calling his assistants. They're starting to get a hotel ready in Miami for them. At this point, Mark Agnifilo is also leaning so far to the left to watch Comey during her direct that he looks like, and I don't mean this to be comical in any sort of the word, because I tried to find a different comparable like meme or something that could depict exactly what we're seeing. But you know that damn meme where the two guys are like leaning to the side and it says like damn? Like he's leaned that far to the side. And sometimes Sean Combs will lean with him, so it literally looks like that damn meme.
Why are they leaning? Because like they're
on the same line as Marine Comey. Marine Comey is literally to their right. And they just like want to stare at her. I also think that they want to stare at the jurors behind her. He's captivated. The jurors are also taking notes, and she says Combs tells her everything's going to be fine. Once they get to the hotel, he just told me that there's somebody coming and just to relax and that this would be something fun. And he knows the guy and he's a really nice guy, and I was just super nervous and just listening to him. The guy ends up showing up. Combs and the guy are in the living room of this hotel suite. Jane is anxious. She's waiting in the bedroom. She says, I remember I was in the room by myself for a little bit, and then he walks out and greets the guy, and I can hear them talking, and he called me outside. I was wearing lingerie underneath a robe. I was wearing the big stripper heels. I was high. She walks outside, sees the entertainer. She doesn't really know what to do, so she just kind of sits awkwardly on the couch. Presumably, she looks very tense. She said her arms were crossed, her legs were crossed, and Combs is just telling her to relax. Sean was like, just stand up. And so I stood up, and I started to just kind of dance, just to kind of get my nerves away. And in the courtroom, she's very emotional as she's talking about this. Her voice is getting soft, and she's describing how Don is trying to make her comfortable. Don is the entertainer. And what was Sean doing while you and Don started touching each other? He was watching and touching himself. Then they escalate to oral activities, which ends up taking a really long time. About how long did that last? Quite a while. And what was Sean doing in the meantime? Watching, talking. I remember he was in a positive mood, just being very encouraging and sweet. Jane has a similar reaction to Cassie to all of this, which is, let's just speed things up. Let's just get this over with because we're already here. Let's just get it over with. But Combs gets upset with her and she asks for protection. Jane's tearing up. Janice Combs, Combs's mom, just walking in a fringe jacket, double layered fringe jacket. It feels like a very festive jacket. She's wearing sunglasses, and this courtroom is such a weird mix of energies all the time. It's so hard to digest. And Jane's just up there crying. Jane says after she had intimate relations with Don, quote, we were in a really good mood. And
Don?
Yes, the entertainer.
Oh.
So she's having intimate reactions. And then, we were in a really good mood and we just started making love. Now she's making love with Sean.
Oh.
And he was really, really happy. She says the first night she felt really exhilarated. I felt that I had did something, done something that I had never done before. I felt excited. I was happy. It was taboo. It was fun. I had a good time with my partner. But ultimately, she's thinking this is just a one-night thing where they do something absolutely crazy and taboo. It's fun. Like maybe it's a 2 times a year for his birthday and Christmas type of thing. She did not think that they would really do it at a high frequency. However, it starts dawning on her. She said, after that night, I truly felt that night had just opened like a Pandora's box in our relationship. It completely set the tone for our relationship moving forward. What do you mean by opening a Pandora's box? I meant that it was just a door that like I was unable to shut for the remainder of the relationship. Because after that first time, which she really wasn't even prepared for, just spawned out of nowhere, anytime she would see Combs, it's like a hotel night was already in the works. And if she just wants to have intimate time with just her and Sean Combs, it just doesn't happen. On one occasion, she recalls Combs inviting her to New York City, and she tells him she doesn't want to go because she feels like he's gonna set her up with somebody, it's gonna be another hotel night, and she would just rather not do that. And he's telling her, no, it's gonna be romantic. It's gonna be you and me, one-on-one, intimate time. So Jane agrees. She flies to New York. She says, I was really excited. I trusted those words, and I went to New York. And on my flight is when he says, do you want entertainment tonight? And I just felt really disappointed. I felt like the high of seeing my lover was just like shot down. I just felt this like heaviness, like damn. And she starts sobbing. I'm sorry. I felt this weight over me. Like I felt like a balloon popped. She's already on the plane. She lands in New York. He has gifts waiting for her and he's gonna take her to dinner. And at this point, it's already 3 a.m. It doesn't feel romantic. She's waiting for him in the car right outside the hotel. He hasn't been talking about the hotel night. So she's thinking, okay, maybe he forgot. He's talking to his entourage outside the hotel. Like she's in the car, he's like at the entrance of the hotel talking to his entourage, maybe security staff, maybe assistants, I don't know, for 40 minutes. And she ends up taking a picture from inside the car while she's waiting for him. And she said it was just kind of funny how obvious the red lights were. Because I guess she could see their hotel room and the red lights were on.
No. So he took a photo she took a photo of Sean, but in the photo you see the red light. Mm-hmm. And she didn't realize that.
She did. That's why she took the photo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she realizes that the assistants are setting up for a hotel night. They go to the lounge, they grab food, and she just says they start bickering. I was bickering about just how I was done with this and I didn't want to do this and like why every time I see you, like this is happening and something along those lines. And I just remember he was like super defensive and saying, we don't have to do any of this stuff. I don't need to do any of this and we don't have to do this at all, and just very defensive. She tells Combs that she doesn't want any more hotel nights, which he agrees. He's like, yeah, okay, fine, you don't have to. But quote, I was just listening, but in my heart, I just knew that he didn't mean that. What makes you say that? Because it still happened that night? So on the way back to the hotel room, he gives her an ecstasy pill. They get to the hotel and there's a man, and no matter what Jane tries, she just cannot get into it. So she tells Combs on the side, and she's like, there's no chemistry. It's not going to work. He just appears agitated, according to Jane, and it's like he begrudgingly accepts it. End quote. Then at that point, it's just me and Sean, and we're just together, and he's kind of like, I can't wait to see what you have for me next. Or what would make this better? Or what would we do? What surprises do you have for me? And
Sean is saying that to her.
After they kick that guy out. And in that moment, I just wanted to make it up to him and that he wasn't going to have like this night that he envisioned. And so I messaged Cabral. Cabral is a different entertainer that they frequently use. Side note, he's an adult video star. He's also from Atlanta, so they're flying him, which is part of the charges, cross state lines. Why did you feel like you needed to make it up to him if just...
They're flying the dude out right then and there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like freaking 4 a.m., 5 a.m.?
Yeah. Why did you feel like you needed to make it up to him if just earlier that night you told him you don't want to do these nights anymore and Sean said you don't have to? Jane pauses for a really long time, and it just feels like she did not prepare for this question. And she says, that's a really hard question to answer. I just knew that's what would make my partner the happiest, and I just wanted to give him what he wanted, and I wanted to make him happy, and I wanted to just have a good upbeat night with him. But even more interesting is that a few weeks prior to Jane testifying, a different man was on the stand. And he was just describing how hotels actually know a lot more about us than we think. So if you stay in especially a more upscale hotel like the Le Meritage in Beverly Hills, They want to know what kind of hotel guest you are so that they can anticipate your needs. They can over deliver and you will continue to stay with them. You will stay loyal to them. Some high-end hotels, there are reports online that they will actually track guests' movements and behavior patterns through their connection to the Wi-Fi. So when hotel guests connect to the hotel Wi-Fi, they will start tracking which floor you're on, how often you use the hotel lobby, how often you're at the bar, how often you're at the pool, just to see how you move about. Are you someone that stays in the hotel room more frequently, or do you leave all day long and you just come home to sleep?
What? First of all,
Yeah.
that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Second of all, what are they doing with my location in this hotel?
I don't know. I guess they're just trying to anticipate the flow of humans in the hotel.
What?
I don't think they know like what you're doing in your room or where in the room you are, but it just kind of shows as you're moving if you're connected to the hotel Wi-Fi. Now, there's a lot that hotels know about their guests, and Frederick Zamore is the general manager at the Le Meritage Beverly Hills Hotel. He is subpoenaed by the government to fly to New York City from Los Angeles to testify in the USA v. Sean Combs case. And the Le Meritage has a very interesting profile on Sean Combs. So a few notes for the front desk. He says there is an American Express card on file. They have dates for times when the hotel provided amenities like a bowl of fruit, chocolates, and water. They keep note of that. Another thing is the note reads, please only reserve entry-level rooms for Sean Combs. Which is puzzling because this guy's a billionaire. Why would you only reserve entry? I would say reserve only top of the line, most expensive suites because he can afford it. The next part of his guest profile, however, reads, always spills candle wax on everything and uses excessive amounts of oil. Place room out of order upon departure for deep cleaning. Please authorize an extra $1,000 when guest stays with us to cover any room damages. With a detailed incident report from January 2010 when Sean Combs was staying in room 804. Housekeeping had gone into the room and noticed large deposits of candle wax on the carpets in the living room area and on the nightstands. Then another note, please monitor outside his room, down the hall to spray air freshener. Likes the room hot, sets thermostat to 75 degrees. Frederick Zamore is in the courtroom for like a solid 20 minutes. There's no cross-examination. And this was a while back, but everyone remembers the name, the La Hermitage Hotel, because everyone was having a hard time saying the name of the hotel. Jane is now on the stand weeks later, and she states that she has been in the La Hermitage Hotel for what Combs called a sobriety party. Combs wanted to get sober, and he just wanted to do this one big party, like a big binge right before, which I don't know about the logic on that, but nevertheless. Jane says the night of the sobriety party, she doesn't use drugs, but she believes that Sean Combs was doing ecstasy and cocaine, and this sobriety party turns into a hotel night. I just remember that it was like this typical routine, except I didn't take anything, and I was in an outfit, and I was with Sean, and the room was decorated, and I was just getting ready, and I remember it was like the first guy, then a second guy, and then after the second guy, I just went into the bathroom, and I wasn't feeling well. So she rushes into the hotel bathroom and throws up. Sean walks in, and the whole thing the defense is trying to say is this is not sex trafficking because everybody here is a consenting adult in an adult relationship. They're all girlfriends, basically. And I'm not saying that this action alone is against the law, but let's say a woman's boyfriend walks in on her in the bathroom throwing up. Picture the normal response. This is Sean Combs' response. Jane says, I told him that I had just thrown up, and he was like, that's good then. You'll feel better now that you've thrown up. So let's go. Let's go because the third guy is here.
The third guy is here, meaning there are two dudes in the room already.
No. So she had one entertainer. They had intimate relations in front of Sean Combs. And then after he left, a second entertainer came. And now it's the third guy back to back, and she's clearly feeling unwell. Jane starts getting more emotional, like she can barely even finish sharing this story. I hated it so much. I was just disgusted. A few of the jurors, they glance at Combs. I was just so repulsed. I was just so mad at myself for doing that. I just deeply regretted that. She says that she felt absolutely terrible after this party, and as Jane is still crying, Comey brings up a thread of text messages. Now, keep in mind, one big part of direct examination is to bring in evidence that the defense is going to bring in during cross, because remember, we were so upset about the whole Intercontinental Hotel lawsuit that came up at the cross for Cassie.
Yep.
It's just annoying because you want to hear it from Cassie herself, and I do think there is this feeling of if something comes up in the cross-examination, it feels like you're caught in a lie.
Yeah.
even if it's not that serious.
Yeah, like you're trying to hide it or something.
Yeah, like if it's not a lie, then why are you hiding it? It just, the line of questioning is aggressive. It's antagonistic. So it's good to bring it up during direct, which is exactly what Comey does. Because after the sobriety party, there is a text from Jane to Combs that reads, "Baby, good morning. I love you. Hope you're having a great day so far. Do you think you can put something in my account, please? There's a few things I needed and wanted. Thank you, baby." A few of the jurors have their brows furrowed. I mean, they're staring at this message because it seems like they're taken aback by this type of message after that kind of testimony. And Comey asks, "And what did Sean respond?" "No."
Really?
Yeah. She later texts, "Can you make sure that you can put something in my account, please? You have me feeling a little crazy and feeling used, like I got tricked into a party and you're not communicating." The government is arguing that Combs engaged in sex trafficking by using force, fraud, and coercion. The defense is arguing that Combs and all the women they were engaged in these activities with, and they were all consenting adults, and that some of these women, they were getting something out of these activities. Now, it's up to the jurors to decide, but this is what Jane says about her experience about these hotel nights. "It's like a Pandora's box. She thought it was one time, and now it's 90% of the time. She said that it took up her entire life, and there's so many similarities to Cassie's testimony. She says that she would have to maintain proper childcare. She always looked put together and ready for whenever Combs would call her. She had to make sure her nails were done, her hair was done, her tan, her glam. And she says, I just liked being beautiful for Sean, and I know he liked me looking beautiful for him. He liked having my hair straight, or when it was time for us to be together intimately, he liked my hair in a ponytail. He wanted me to have light-colored nails, mostly like a creamy white. And later in our relationship, he was wanting me to get piercings." "Where did Sean tell you he wanted you to get piercings?" "My nipples." Combs starts twirling his pen against his lip like a joint. Which, side note about the piercing, he tells her this is what he wants from his girl and this is what turns him on. Then he has his chief of staff, KK, apparently help set up the appointment for her to get the piercing done. And she describes getting it done felt like a rodent had bit her really hard there. And she kept those in for about a year until they, quote, they snagged on some of the outfits and they bled and got infected. So she naturally takes them out. But Sean Combs is upset about this. He was okay with it at first, but then I could tell he was getting impatient with how long it was taking me to put them back in. So with this conversation, again, Combs is just sitting there stroking his chin hairs. At this point, it looks like he's watching the 5 o'clock news about inflation. Like this has nothing to do with him. He's got such a nonchalant demeanor. And it's so interesting because even the jurors seem like they're getting less and less engaged with the testimony. It seems like they're almost to the point where they are desensitized to the conversation of freak-offs and hotel nights.
And this is day 1, day 2 of the direct?
This is around day 1 and day 2.
Okay, and you can tell the jurors are getting less and less
Yeah,
locked
they will perk up at certain points. Like when certain names come up, like the L'Hermitage Hotel, because I think it's like an Easter egg feeling is how my researcher describes it. Because we're looking for ways to describe, it's like, oh, I've heard that before. Yeah. Oh, maybe we're about to connect some dots. But they just look a little less engaged. There's not particularly as much smirking as there was with Mia's testimony, but they just some of them look like they're not resonating with this story. Meanwhile, Jane is telling this slightly unengaged jury. He would say things like, where are my piercings? Where are my piercings? This is the last time I see you when you don't have any piercings on. She says she didn't even really have much time to spend with her friends anymore. Just looking nice started taking up most of the time in her life, like every day. But it's all because, quote, I would say when I was with Sean, I was really consumed by him. I was really consumed by Sean. Meanwhile, Combs is glancing back at the clock, which is behind the press pews at the end of the courtroom. Like, where do you have to be right now, sir? I don't understand. Jane says the hotel rooms were almost always decorated and fixed before they arrived, with bed sheets covering everything, all the furniture, blankets, towels, and in a hotel night, they would go through like 24 or more bottles of baby oil. Diddy goes,
24
yeah, 24.
24 baby oils.
Yes.
Wow.
Diddy goes into his full businessman pose, legs crossed, right arm on the armchair rest, 2 fingers touching and pinching his chin hairs. He's doing this. He makes eye contact with Mark Agnifilo, who's sitting to his right, and then instantly he puts his arm down. I'm not sure if that's a sign from Mark or if he just wants to naturally change his position, but it reminds me of like if you're shaking your leg and your parents snap a look at you and you stop. That was the vibe it was giving. However, there are way bigger things that Combs has to worry about because Jane starts testifying that the entertainers would be instructed by Combs to finish their actions just right outside of her private parts. And that is when Jane and Combs would start making, quote, love. Combs cocks his chin all the way up. Would you clean up the substance in between? No. Combs stares at Comey, cocks his head to the left, and it feels like he's trying to show the jurors that he's not embarrassed. In a single hotel night, sometimes it would happen more than once with one person and then maybe more than once with another person. In total, how long did a typical hotel night last? Like 24 to 30 hours or more? All the while, she's high on ecstasy that Combs provides, and she does state that the longest time was 3.5 days. She stayed awake through a combination of, quote, I would take ecstasy, I would drink caffeine, I would just try to drink water, I would just try to order myself smoothies or protein shakes. She says that she was not allowed to sleep at all during that time. Sometimes she would be told by him to hold the same position for hours, like the same position during intimate activities for hours. She would have to wear professional stripper heels for hours the entire time. She says, I just remember my feet being really sticky and oily, and then I would just try to remain balanced in my steps, but maybe a couple times I've slipped, yeah. At this point, interestingly enough, it's like every time Jane responds to a question while she's talking, Combs slightly lifts his chin up and looks down at her. And then when she's done responding, his chin also goes back down. Jane says that she would listen to all of Combs's instructions during the hotel nights, quote, on command, even if that meant that she would have to suffer from UTIs, yeast infections. She said that she had a UTI almost every week, and it just felt like this burning, constant urination. It was the worst. She would get treated with antibiotics. She would be sore everywhere, all the time, but she never really told Combs about it because, quote, I just didn't want to indicate like any negativity. Combs is looking straight at Jane and Prosecutor Comey. Jane does not look back at him, but it does seem like he's not as calm as he tries to be perceived. A few things stand out. So, for example, the very first break during Jane's testimony, Combs practically jumps out of his chair, places both of his hands on his chest, and does like this weird back stretch. And he does a lot of these like uncomfortable stretches during really weird moments of the trial. And it's usually when it's a very important witness. Like remember Mia, he was doing those weird fist bumps, shoulder stretches, puffing out his chest. And then at other moments, Combs is just staring down Maureen Comey. It is so clear Sean Combs does not like any of the prosecutors. Whenever one of them stutters, whenever one of them gets an objection sustained, he looks at them with such disdain. He looks at them like, are you okay? He will just give them such a specific stare. It's the best way to describe it is like if you hate someone and they get in trouble and you just look at them like, oh, you're such a mess. Like that's the vibe. And it's not just the prosecutors he's doing this to. There's one time when the jurors are not in the room, the attorneys are all arguing about something, and Mark Agnifilo asks the judge, Your Honor, I apologize, can we have a quick bathroom break? So it's the attorneys arguing, and it's clear that Mark Agnifilo is asking on behalf of Sean Combs. So the judge says, to be honest, yes, if someone is not addressing an issue and you would want to take a break, you should do so, Mr. And he's about to address Mr. Combs. Like, Mr. Combs, if you need to go, feel free to go. Combs doesn't even acknowledge the judge, just gets up mid-sentence that the judge is saying that, does not respond, does not nod, nothing, and he just starts leaving with the U.S. Marshals. The judge even says, there you go, okay, and moves on.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm
really?
like...
He's not... What?
And this is so crazy to me because if Combs is convicted, like, is this, he genuinely feels so much confidence that he's not going to get convicted? Because if he's convicted, Father Arun is the one deciding the sentence.
Wait, that's so interesting because he's always super attentive to the jurors, right?
Yes.
He's always playing up these
Yes.
kind of gestures versus to the judge, he's not like showing any of that. Like
No.
he's different. You know, even the defense attorneys are always like, Your Honor, Your Honor, Your Honor.
Yeah. I don't think he likes the judge being in charge. I think he's also very butthurt that the judge yelled at him about nodding at the jurors. I really do not think that he can stand another man being in charge of him.
Interesting.
Yeah, because even if the jurors leave, when he talks to the judge directly, he'll try to make jokes. There's one time where, Alexandra Shapiro is like, we're going to waive the right to something. Like they're trying to get their way and they're like, if anything happens, we'll waive our right to an appeal based off of this. It was on like one of the jurors they were trying to dismiss. And then the judge is just trying to confirm with Mr. Combs and he starts waving and he says, we waive it.
Judge is doing that?
No, Combs.
Oh.
So like when he's directly talking to the judge, it seems like he tries a little bit to be charismatic, but otherwise he does not care. There are times when the jurors are dismissed for the day, the attorneys are fighting about stuff. Combs will slouch all the way in his chair and lean his head up against the chair on back.
So you're saying the moment that the jurors left,
yeah,
he's like, switch.
Yeah, he's like, whatever.
Huh, fascinating.
Yeah, and I'm like, Father Arun is going to be the one sentencing you if you're convicted. So I don't know what kind of energy that is. I don't know. It's just weird. Now, to be fair, though, I guess Combs is very consistent. He looks at the prosecutors like that. He looks at the judge like that. Sometimes he looks at his own defense team like that. So he just like hates everyone sometimes.
Except the jurors.
Except for the jurors. Now, Jane testifies that it would just be difficult for her to be able to get the entertainers to even wear protection because Combs would guilt trip her. He says, quote, he didn't want to see it, like rubber when he was watching. And she's like hesitating because it seems like she doesn't want to talk about these things. Now, the prosecutors bring into evidence an audio recording of Jane and Combs and an entertainer. The camera was set up to film the hotel night, but Jane and Dawn, the entertainer, are looking for protection in the room. Now, just to clarify, the courtroom mainly just hears a lot of static, but the jurors get a transcript of the audio note, which the gallery does not. But while it's playing, Jane is mainly looking down with no emotion, and Combs is studying the hell out of the screen and listening to it in like a little huddle with Tenny and Mark, and their heads are all pressed together at this point. Now, Janice, Combs' mom, is just staring straight ahead, eyes closed. Combs' bestie in the pew, his head is drooped, his eyes are closed. It's unclear if he's sleeping or depriving himself from the sense of sight so that he can enhance his hearing abilities. Meanwhile, the jurors are frozen. A lot of them are paying attention. They've got their eyebrows raised because in the audio clip, Combs tells Jane that she was, quote, just taking that D.
Combs is telling Jane, just take that D.
No, you were just taking that D, meaning it's already happened without protection, so why are you complaining now? Combs goes on to say, if you don't touch yourself right now, Jane gets very emotional, and she says she understood it as, my request is just going to get denied, so just move on from this request. Why did you feel the need to get permission from Sean to have the man who was having intimate relations with your body to wear a condom? Her voice starts breaking, and she pauses for a really long time before she says, I don't know. I'm just still trying to process even that. Jane later says, perhaps this is the reason, quote, I just didn't want to disappoint my lover. And I do kind of love Maureen Comey for this because she asks on multiple occasions why the entertainer's bodily fluids were not cleaned off her body before she and Sean were intimate. And each time this line of questioning appears, Combs tries to make his body bigger. He'll stretch his chin up and look down at Jane. He'll look straight at Maureen Comey and the jurors. But Jane continues that Combs would like for her to just play around with it and have it everywhere. She says after that, she would have to shower and get ready for the next entertainer. Jane starts to cry and get emotional. And it's interesting because some of the jurors, they look away from Jane when she starts getting too emotional. And it doesn't look like, I don't want to see this anymore. It feels so human. Like, I feel like we should give her some privacy because she's so emotional. Like, it feels too intimate to be staring her down.
Yeah.
Combs, on the other hand, he's staring her down. He will crane his neck to watch her cry. She says that if she was getting tired, she would try to give subtle cues that she's tired, saying things like she was hungry or, quote, I would lay down, or I would give him kind of like little faces. But it didn't matter because he would sense it and say things like, you're not getting tired on me, are you? Let's finish strong. Let's end on a high note. Comey asks Jane, why didn't you just say that you were done and you wanted to stop? And she just starts sobbing. And there are points where she sobs so hard, it's like waves on her body, and she'll try to talk, but she lets out what other people have described as like very animalistic noises, which is kind of a weird way of describing it, but in the sense of like, they're not like normal cries. Like you're trying to hold it in, but you can't even help it. They just blurt out of you. It's almost like an exhale scream. Like she can't even help it. And she says, I just don't know. I don't know. She says that after hotel nights, she feels, I would feel really happy to end my night with Sean, but I would really fight to block out just like how sad I felt after. She also explains afterwards when they get that quality time together, they would spend time like a real relationship, kind of. She thought maybe they'd go on a date after a hotel night because that's what he would always promise her. But instead of these romantic dates, she said that she would follow Sean Combs back to his residence. Quote, I would make sure he was like showered and clean, and I would cook for him, I would massage him, I would put on his favorite show, and then I would finally get to cuddle with him and sleep with him. Side note, this man's favorite show is Dateline, which is a true crime series on NBC, which Jane talks about, and Dateline actually did a video on Diddy. They did an episode on Diddy, but it has since been taken down off of most platforms. And it's not because Jane is like, yeah, his favorite show is Dateline, so they thought, let's take it down. It's because Combs filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against NBC and Peacock for a separate documentary that they did on him, Diddy, the Making of a Bad Boy. So that Dateline video is very hard to find.
Wait, he loves to watch Dateline, which
Yes.
like he loves true crime.
Yes.
And they made a video on him after the
Yes.
Cassie lawsuit. And then he filed for...
Yes. They also made a documentary, the Diddy, Making of a Bad Boy.
And he sued them.
Yes. For $100 million. And like, while I do think that defamation lawsuits are legitimate, and it's very serious with the day and age of the internet, people can go online and say all sorts of crazy things about public figures. However, I always find it so fascinating when defendants that are accused of really heinous crimes are suing people for large sums of money for defamation. I just think it's an interesting way that the world works. It's just weird. It always makes me go, oh, that's weird. Just saying. Now, another incident Jane distinctively remembers, this is back in 2021. She says, I remember Sean said that he had someone coming over and he invited this man over, and honestly, I was like immediately repulsed by him. Jane is repulsed by this entertainer. Do you remember where you were? I was on the bed. I was in the hotel room. I just remember that he was really sweaty, and I just thought he didn't look nice and that he kind of smelled. And I just remember I was very hesitant with him. I just kind of tried to make it work. I tried to kind of seduce him and like with my body and try to, I don't know, just make some sort of attraction happen, and it just wasn't. Like, I just remember him sweating so much, and I was kind of throwing looks at my partner like I wasn't feeling this. I tried to touch his chest. I tried to bring him closer to me, and I remember Sean saying things like, if I want to taste it or if I want to do something with him. And I was just trying to move around that subject and was trying to find different ways of, I don't know. She ends up telling Diddy that she's not feeling this and it's just not something that she can get into. Diddy proceeds to lay her down and starts having intimate relations with her. All the while, this guy is still around and he's just hovering on top of her while Combs is having intimate relations with her. Combs keeps telling her to look at this man's private part while he is sweating on her. Eventually, Combs dismisses the guy and brings in a second guy, Paul. And this time, maybe in an attempt to make sure Jane does not say no again, when Paul comes in, Jane is blindfolded. This seems like a detail that the jurors do not overlook. Their brows are furrowed, they're scrunched together, they start taking notes. Combs is doing like these little quick glances at the jurors. He does this when he tries to get their reaction. He's not nodding at them. He's not shaking his head. He's just kind of like glancing at them to see how they're reacting to these types of news. It's like very quick. Just like with Cassie, a lot of these hotel nights were filmed. Jane says Combs would convince her that it was just for him, it was just for the two of them, to film these hotel nights so that they can look back on these memories. And there are exhibits shown, which are screenshots of these hotel nights. The jurors are shown them, the gallery has not shown them, rightfully so. But I think this is the part where the jurors have pretty interesting reactions. I mean, it's just exhibit after exhibit after exhibit. And I think the gravity starts to hit the jurors. Every single juror appears to be frozen. None of them are taking notes. They're frozen. They're staring, which at this point, this is before any of the footage has been showed. By the time that you're hearing this, I mean, it's all over the news. They're playing like an hour worth of video footage from these nights to the jurors. This is like a lot. And some of them have their heads rested in their hands. Others have their eyebrows raised. Others are just staring with like a scowl, like a very concerned look. There's no audible gasp or reaction. You just see a lot of tension. One juror in particular has their arm propped up on the armrest and their hand is on their forehead. But it's almost like at any moment they're going to scooch it down and cover their eyes. It feels like every person, prosecutor, defense attorney, they're all just looking at the jurors to gauge their reactions. Meanwhile, Combs is frozen the whole time. His eyes are looking at Tenny's notebook, just staring at her documents. It is likely that he was prepped on what to do in this moment, which is exactly this, because I don't think that he's reading anything, registering anything in his mind at this moment. There are other times where he looks at the defense team's notes and he looks like a little kid trying to cheat off of your homework, like he's actually studying them. But at this occasion, he's just staring, but I don't think anything is processing. I think he was told not to look at the jurors at this moment. A lot of these videos of the hotel nights would be rewatched during what Jane calls a movie night. Between Sean and I, we would have these things called movie nights where we would not have an entertainer and we would just watch pornography, or we would watch one of our older tapes or newer tapes and we would just role play and fantasize, and that's what we called a movie night. But also with others, text messages are shown to the jurors and Jane gives some more context. Sometimes Combs would be with other women and would need to get excited intimately. So he would watch videos of her with Jane with another man. Interestingly, if this is true, that means he really cannot or does not like to get excited without having this element, if you will. Jane explains, it was just a pattern of his to be with another woman and then text me in the middle of the night requesting these videos. To which at one point Jane declines to send him the video and he texts her, I got the phones. I'm asking you to send me what I don't have. Just do what I say, please. I'm horny. To which Jane responds, you're using my videos to get your dick hard for someone else. Combs responds, bye. I was just asking you to send me something to watch. That's it. Good night. He sends her another message. Tell me when you can come tomorrow. At this point, Combs cheek in his palm like a pouty kid listening to these text messages, like he's not the one that sent them. Jane reads her message out loud. I'm not coming to New York. I feel disrespected that you have to unnecessarily brag online that you for 48 hours straight on a trip that you said you were asleep on. And then you text me that you're horny and need my videos to get your dick hard to fuck someone else. It's clear you just want me there to use me for hotel binge and you have plenty of hoes for that.
Wait, what did she just say?
Let me explain. So Jane explains to the jurors that she had seen a podcast episode where Combs is on the podcast bragging about going on a trip with another woman and how they were intimate for 48 hours straight. I think it was in a very specific podcast episode that they have now taken down that part. The rest of the podcast episode is still up, but that part is gone.
Okay, and what is the podcast?
Yeah, we're going to get into it.
Okay.
So he tells her that he goes on this trip with this other woman and they were not engaged in intimate activities. He was asleep the whole time. He was tired. Then they post a podcast episode and they're talking about how they were doing intimate relations with each other for 48 hours straight. At this point, Combs starts fidgeting with his collar and his eyes are just like fixated on Maureen Comey. The jurors don't appear to have any sort of revelation or connecting of the dots moment. Press pews, public pews, everybody's jotting notes down because it's pretty clear. Most of us know what podcast Jane is referring to. It is titled Young Miami and Diddy Talk Their Relationship Status, Dating, Love, Records, and More on Carisha Please. There is another episode in reference to some of this stuff. It's another episode of Carisha Please, but Carisha is Young Miami's name. Now, Young Miami was part of the City Girls, and this podcast was posted June of 2022. This is before the lawsuit, before the charges, before the arrest, before anybody knew anything about Diddy's personal life. She was actually Combs's latest public relationship prior to his arrest. It seems like Combs would have public-facing girlfriends like Kim Porter, Cassie, Young Miami. And then it seems like he had a ton of girlfriends that were either influencers, just like women that were not publicly known. And he would not want it to get out that they were perhaps seeing each other. Now, Young Miami and Combs went to the last Met Gala together that he was able to go to. And there's a lot of interesting theories about Young Miami's relationship with Combs. Some people think that she participated in freak-offs because she had white nails. Some people think that she didn't and that this was literally just like a PR relationship. People have lots of opinions, but the podcast, to give you an overview, Carisha introduces her podcast guest, Diddy, as the one and only Mr. Billionaire Diddy.
Today's guest, we got the one and only Mr. Billionaire Diddy. You call me billionaire Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, the motherfucking one and only. What's up?
He literally cannot stop smiling. And it's crazy because like you can see some of these aspects of him come out in court. Like they have like spurts where he's very cocky. His body language is like, I'm the man of the house body language, but then he reserves it and he reins it back in. But when you watch this podcast episode, she introduces him and he says, the motherfucking one and only, what's up? Like he's very like, fuck yeah, that's me. Okay. Now, to be really fair, I don't know if they were ever even confirmed to be dating. But for example, in the podcast, Carisha asks him, so what the fuck do you have going on? What's your relationship status? Combs' response, I'm single, but I'm dating. I'm just taking my time with life. So she's like, so what are we? We date. We're dating. We go and have dates. We're friends. We go to exotic locations. We have great times. We go to strip clubs. We go to church. Church. I'm going to take you to church. Now, mind you, Jane appears to testify that she's watching and listening to this podcast because Combs tells her that their relationship is strictly PR.
Oh.
Carisha asks in the podcast, do you consider yourself toxic? Would you say you're toxic? I would say that it gets toxic. I'm not trying to be toxic though, but you are toxic. Yeah. I mean, I think at times, but I'm not trying to give that. Are you a cheater? Combs leans forward, puts his elbows on his knees in the podcast, not in the courtroom. I think that, okay, like a lot of his businessman poses, you'll see it on this podcast.
Are you a cheater?
Nah, I used to be a cheater. I'm not a cheater no more.
Used to be.
I'm a truth teller now.
Honest. I'm going to give it to you honest. I ain't trying to be lying, ducking, hiding, hurting nobody's feelings, none of that. Which, side note, Carisha also asks in this podcast, missionary or doggy style. He says missionary because he likes to look people in the eyes, which is ironic because multiple of the entertainers have said that he's very dodgy with eye contact. In fact, they are warned ahead of time, to not make eye contact with Combs in the corner. He also tells her that he's going to drop $250K taking her on a shopping spree. $250,000. In a separate podcast, Carisha says that she loves when guys pee on her, which a lot of the comments at the times were saying things like, her relationship with P. Diddy makes so much sense now. But now after the trial, people are saying, oh, that is reminiscent of when Cassie was told to be urinated on by the entertainer. So there's sub-conspiracies of how involved Young Miami was involved in the lifestyle, if she was a victim in any of this but does not want to come forward. If she's not, I don't know if that's like the main conversation to be having, but it is out there. Psst, your payments are showing. But with Apple Cash, your payments are private by default. No public feeds, awkward reactions, or unnecessary payment drama. Apple Cash lets you send cash in messages right in the conversations you're already having. Personally, it's almost always a race with my family and friends to put your card down for dinner and insist that you pay for everyone. However, if it's a meal that's super expensive, or my idea originally to go out, I feel at ease knowing I can always Apple Cash them something privately. With Apple Tap to Cash, you can pay someone next to you without looking up a username or scanning a QR code. Just hold your iPhone near someone else's to send. Almost instantly, you'll receive a notification from your Apple Wallet that your Apple Cash balance has changed. Now, if you want to spend it, you just keep it right there in the same wallet you use for Apple Pay. No external apps needed. But let's say you want to put it away and save it. You can transfer your Apple Cash straight to your bank account. Switch to Apple Cash and start sending privately. Apple Cash services are provided by Green Dot Bank, member FDIC. Now, Jane references in the testimony that Combs had said in this podcast, like, you made Papa proud because they went 48 hours on a yacht trip to this exotic location and they were doing it for like 48 hours straight. It's not in the original podcast anymore. We did try to spend some time looking for it, but I don't know if it's necessarily that pertinent. Now, the podcast interview, what did Sean say on that podcast interview? Jane responds, on the podcast interview, he was bragging about how he had intimate relations for 48 hours straight. When he has told her, quote, he was saying that there was no sex involved during this trip, that it's not like that, it wasn't a big deal, and it was just a quick turnaround trip and just kind of downplayed the whole thing. Combs starts shaking his head no at this point. Jane explains that Combs promised her that she was going to have this exact same yacht trip, but after a 2-day hotel night, they were so tired that all they did afterwards, they didn't go on the yacht. They just rest, sleep, recover. He keeps promising all of these things, and then he hangs a hotel night over her head. And then when they're done, he doesn't follow through. Then a few weeks later, he takes allegedly Young Miami on another yacht trip. And Jane says that after seeing this podcast, she, quote, voiced my frustrations and my hurt from seeing that. But again, Combs just dismisses her feelings, just texting her, girl, that was podcast talk. I haven't even had sex. Meanwhile, the jurors are leaning forward. Many of them are reading these messages because, yeah, it does sound kind of dismissive. Later, he invites her to another hotel night, and he's just convincing her. He's further explaining how the trip was nothing and just trying to calm me down and saying that they didn't even have intimate relations. It was nothing. It was so quick. It was so short, and how hard it was to even have intimate relations on a boat and just downplaying it. Combs is again shaking his head no. Now, the biggest thing that the government has to prove to the jurors is that Jane was coerced into having these hotel nights with Combs. The problem is, because Combs has been so dismissive about her saying anything about how she doesn't want a hotel night, she doesn't get to have these elaborate conversations with him where she's like, hey, I don't want to do this. That is why the government brings in her notes apps. Like, you know, on the notes app on your phone, you can make like a journal entry. So they bring that in as evidence of state of mind, and they're able to get this admitted.
That is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I remember somewhere someone said like, even if you delete it, they can still.
Yeah.
Is that what happened, or just the fact that they pull up her notes app?
I think they pulled it up, and I think forensic analysts were able to confirm that it was not edited after a certain date, and that it was actually created on the dates that it said to have been created.
That is so interesting.
I'm sure they do their due diligence, so it seems like this was written at the time that they say it was.
Wow.
Now, the government is able to get this admitted into evidence, and then they ask, and then after you wrote your thoughts and your feelings out in your notes, what did you do with what you had written in those notes? Sometimes I would feel better just getting it out and writing it. Sometimes I would just have the courage to actually send it to him. November 26, 2022. So this is 1 year before Cassie's lawsuit is filed. Once this note is admitted into evidence, Combs is so close to that evidence screen, he's basically eyeballs touching. I mean, it's a little dramatic, but you get it. He's looking for Waldo. Jane reads out the note. I've just been waiting for you to do all the things you promised me and nothing. You hurt my feelings every time. You dismiss me. It's belittling. You always ask of me. And when I ask of you, it's a problem, or I'm made to feel weird about it. I don't know what you're calling me for, but I'm sorry. I don't want to do drugs for days and days and have you use me to fulfill your freaky wild desires in hotel rooms. Jane says that she wrote this because after every hotel night, he always made her feel like they were going to spend quality time together just after the hotel night, but it would never happen. Jane says that she wrote this in her notes app because she doesn't have the courage a lot of the times to even text most of this to Combs. Then another one from December 12th, 2022. Even with this one, Combs is like all the way leaning in, reading this message. And he kind of gives himself a self-hug. His right arm is on his left shoulder, and you can see his fingers tapping with each word that Jane is saying of the notes. Jane reads, but for what? You want to call me for what? You gonna ask me to come over to put you to bed because you were partying with another girl the night before? Ask for foot rubs and sleep until the next day to take another girl on a date? Or ask me to come over because you want escapism or debauchery? Keep me up for 3 days straight and then send thousands of roses and cars and jewelry and private island trip date nights for someone else and leave me to clean up my house and recover alone? I'm done being used by you. You are hurtful and damaging for me. I have to pull away from you because you have just crossed too many lines. You want me to call you for what? So you can convince me to come over around you and what? Put you to bed and give you foot rubs because you were fucked up from partying with whoever the night before? Have me just sit there while you're calling, texting, FaceTiming, and sending voice notes to other girls? Or have me locked up in my hotel or trash my house for a 3-day dirty escapism binge? Have me do all of that just to turn around to leave me and clean up and recover on my own while you buy thousands of things for other women? I'm done being used by you. I don't feel good around you and I need to stay away from you. Side note, sometimes the hotel nights would be at Jane's house. So she would have to clean up all of it by herself. So she's coming down from drugs. She's cleaning up all this baby oil. And she says, just trying not to think too much about what just happened and the reality of me being alone, cleaning up after this and how that would affect me. Another note from February 22nd, 2023. You lied straight to my face. You didn't care what I would see or how it would hurt me. All you wanted was another hotel night and use me before your trip, like you've been doing to me for the past 2 years. I've deprived myself of romance, love, travel, deep, meaningful connections, and sitting back patiently watching you do all the things I wish you would do for me. You lied because you wanted to use me for the night. You lied. I can't get this image of you lying to my face out of my head. You lied so you could use me for that night. You lied because you knew you had a whole vacation planned. You lied and said you had no time for me because you were stressed from work. Combs starts rubbing his temples with his hand while studying the document. Then another entry from September 15th, 2023. This is 2 months before Cassie's lawsuit drops and almost exactly a year to the date before Diddy's arrest. She writes in her notes, as much as I want to see you, I don't want to come there and be treated like a hoe in a hotel room for the millionth time. I don't want to come to New York just to be treated like this hoe. As much as I want to see you, I just know what you want me out there for. It doesn't make me feel good. You got other women available who are willing to do that. I think that you guys and I, perhaps from covering so many true crime cases and just staying really well informed, I think that we tend to have a really good understanding of why victims do not leave allegedly abusive relationships. I think that we also have a good understanding of like even how the dynamics in like a cult work. Obviously, standing from the outside, we can all walk up and down the street, patting ourselves on the back, being like, yeah, I'm too smart to fall for a cult. That can't ever be me. But you don't really know. A lot of cults don't prey on people that are at the height of their lives or at the height of their autonomy and self-esteem. Usually they look for very specific types of people, and abusive relationships operate in similar ways. And I'm not alleging anything about the Combs enterprise is even reminiscent of a cult, but I will say there were jarring moments where we're in the courtroom, we see a lot of these ex-assistants testifying, and the way that they have so much emotionally complicated relationships with Combs it is reminiscent of like when we hear people who escape from a cult testifying or doing interviews. It's complicated. They think everything that's happened to them is the worst thing that could happen, but at the same time, they still harbor some love. And they say, that time I grew a lot. It's just so complex. And there's so much nuance in these dynamics. But I will say, when you go online or when you go on the street, I don't know if most of society sees those things. I mean, even Cassie's testimony, it was polarizing to some members of society, and jurors are supposed to be reflections of society. And I don't want to assume or tell you what the jurors are thinking because I'm not a mind reader. I don't know any of these people personally. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what a smirk means to them. They could literally be smirking about something unrelated, a distant memory. However, I will tell you what I've observed, and I will say that there are certain moments throughout Jane's testimony, and I think even the defense catches on to this because during the cross-examination, they hone in on these topics. I think there are certain topics that the jurors may not like. So for example, I think that some of the jurors, maybe they can understand Jane up to a certain point in some of the experiences she shares. So for example, in 2023, Jane goes to Miami to celebrate her birthday with Combs. This is February of 2023. Cassie's lawsuit is November of 2023. So this is prior. She says that she's just bubbling with excitement because it's finally supposed to be this romantic moment with Sean Combs. And she says, I just expected quality time with my partner, just a birthday celebration, dinner, us, sex, togetherness. I remember we were at dinner and I was dressed up for him. We were at a sushi place and I was really just happy to be around my lover. And he was just so loving and sweet as always. And then he starts to tell me, and I'm so excited to see what entertainment is tonight. Something like that. How did you react when Sean brought up entertainment? I just gulped, like I had this like gulp moment, like something was stuck in my throat, like because I didn't expect that. I said entertainer, like I was just kind of, I didn't really have the words. And he was like, well, it's your birthday. I thought you just wanted to have fun for your birthday. It's your birthday. We should try something for your birthday. After the birthday dinner, he gives her a birthday necklace. And right after, a man comes into the hotel room. Jane says, I just remember at this point in our relationship, this just had become so routine that it was the same rhythm, almost like robotically, and just the same thing, just small talk. I'm in lingerie, I'm flirting with the guy, and I'm just getting things comfortable and nice in the moment. She says that she just wanted to be someone else, turn into someone else. Quote, just somebody just who can just perform, just tune into somebody that can just do this and just get into it. I just remember we were much quicker. I was much quicker with this person. I didn't know him. He felt more like a stranger to me more than anyone. And I just felt like it was even more invasive of a moment because it was my birthday and I didn't want to do this on my birthday. And I sat there. I was already on the couch. I just wanted to get into position to have intimate relations so that we could just get it over with. Jane says that she asks Combs for protection and he starts getting very upset. Quote, I remember Sean giving me these really bad looks, like these really dirty looks, like shaking his head, like you better not ask for a fucking condom. Like I remember those words out of his mouth. I could just read it. She starts sobbing through her responses. I just try to play it off like I didn't see it. And I take his energy and like I didn't react to it because he was right in front of me and this man was in between and like trying to get ready to, and I didn't want to like sour the mood. This is on her birthday. Why didn't you want to sour the mood? Because I just didn't want my partner to be unhappy with me. Combs grabs her protection, hands it to them, and the man starts having intimate relations with Jane. But Combs is not having it. She says he hated it. He was just like walking away. He was so disinterested. Even while this was happening, he just seemed so disappointed in what was happening, and it just made me feel really, really bad. I just wanted it to be over. The man leaves. Jane thinks it's over now. They end up switching to a different hotel room, like a hotel suite, bigger. And what happened when you got to the bigger suite? I remember he shifted his energy. He was more loving. He was celebratory. He had a surprise for me at the table of that suite, and it was cake, flowers. I think there was another bracelet and just drinks and balloons, and he made that suite look really nice for me when we got there. After that, we just had a bit of rare alone time, and then I don't even know how, I don't even remember, but then Cabral comes. I remember when Cabral came, it was just hours and hours of that. Hours and hours of what, Jane? Intimate relations, foreplay, pleasing, just doing so much, just doing all of it. I don't even know how long Cabral was there. I don't know if it was multiple rounds. I don't know. But by the time he left, it was morning. After Cabral left, what, if anything, do you remember Sean saying to you? That Dawn was coming? How did you react when you heard that Dawn was coming? I reacted like it was nothing, but inside I hated it. Why did you react like it was nothing if you hated it? Because I love my partner. A juror in the very first row at this point, a lot of the press are trying to get a better look at them because it appeared that they were crying, but it turned out to be allergies. So it's, like I said, it's very hard to interpret. But Jane continues with her testimony. She says that after all of this, he just up and leaves her in the hotel room and goes on vacation with another girl. She says, it broke my heart because I just finished spending my birthday with all these guys having intimate relations with me. And then just for my partner to leave and do such a romantic gesture for someone else. It also happened to be that woman's birthday around the same time.
We don't know who though.
Allegedly Young Miami. She does confront him in a text later, and he just responds coldly because I didn't feel like telling you what I was doing with somebody else. You had your birthday, and I didn't tell her what I was doing with you, and that's the way I want to keep it. Thank you, love. Hope you have a great dinner. Jane says the big betrayal, too, is that he took her to Turks and Caicos, which is exactly where she wanted to go back with him since that's where they went on their first vacation. She texts him about how hurt she is, and he just responds, you look like you had a great party, and we had a good time. Stay in the light.
Staying in the light is so important. There's so many like negative forces and so many things that want to pull you to do something or make you respond or just pull you just down into just that dirty, nasty frequency. Fuck that. Stay in the light. Let's vibrate higher. Trust me. Yeah. Yeah. Get all that sun. Shit, I ain't getting out the light. I'm in the light. I am the light.
She responds, it really feels like you used me to get off and then you go away for a week. I've been staying in the light and staying strong about it, but this is my truth and how it makes me feel. I'd like to get off the hamster wheel and just do something different with you. I deserve it too. But of all places, you picked Turks. How can I not feel that way? When are we having a getaway? You've promised me this for years. All we do is hotel and it's sad. It's just not fair to me. I didn't want to do all of that on my birthday. You knew how tired I was. You knew how tired and I just kept a good attitude about it. I come home to see you on a trip that I've been dying for, to the only place I've been wanting to go back with you because it was their first trip. I'm off it because it's just making me cry. It's been 2 years of waiting and I'm just frustrated and feeling sad. Jane is emotional. She's tearing up. She's heavy gasping as she's collecting herself while reading these messages. What were you referring to when you said you knew how tired I was? He knew that after 3 guys that I was tired. He texts her back. Let's not do anything anymore. Sorry. Tired of you throwing sex in my face. Whack. I can't handle you comparing yourself with another woman. That's why I lie in the first place. So let's just be friends. She responds, I would never make you feel how you're making me feel right now. I don't throw sex in your face constantly, but the type of nights we have are nights that require everything out of me. For 30 or 40 hours straight, I figured on my birthday, you would switch it up for me. And what you're doing right now is exactly the switch up I asked for. How are you treating me so cold? And you're really making me feel used right now. And you're breaking up with me. Is that really what you want? Be clear now so I can see things for what they really are. And I can see you for who you really are. He doesn't respond and she texts, I feel terrible right now. I have been nothing but patient, no headaches, no stress, give you whatever you want, whenever you want it. I don't stress you about anyone or anything. I show up when you want and how you want it. You're the only man in my life and you're the only man in my life and I don't entertain anybody else. Choosing to lie on my birthday feels like you really tried to trick me. You could have just been honest and it wouldn't have been such a blow to me. Why am I the only one who always seems to get the shorter end of everything and less of an experience? But yet I feel like I'm asked to do the most. And now I'm seeing you on this trip and I can't help but feel taken advantage of and taken for granted for and lied to. He just responds, let's be friends because I can't take this part. For real, I'm done with you comparing yourself to someone else. I treat you good and if you don't feel so, let's just be friends because I'm tired of these long texts telling me what I'm doing wrong. How is treating me good telling me for years that we're going on a trip and ask me for patience all these years, then lie on my birthday and take someone else somewhere I wanted to go? How is that treating me good? Every woman in your life has enjoyed this with you but me. Why? I don't deserve that. Don't I give you everything you want? What am I doing wrong? I feel like I do everything right by you and I still get lied to or I get treated less than. Why? Have we just taken things too far and now you look down on me? You're breaking my heart by asking to be friends like I'm nothing to you. He responds, you just had a great dinner. Anything you ask me for, I've done. We'll miss each other. Okay, so there's a few things I think that, just like the commentary that I also see online, it feels like some people can't get over the fact that based on just these text messages, it seems that she is more upset about him taking another woman to Turks and Caicos versus the actual hotel night. Now, I feel like if you read in between the lines and you read some of these messages, I think it's the fact that he has normalized hotel nights, likely, allegedly, presumably, in my personal opinion, not legally. Maybe he has normalized to her, hotel nights are normal. This is like Hollywood life. This is what we do. Mm-hmm. And anytime she brings up that she doesn't want to do it, he's kind of shutting her down to make her feel like, oh, this is just what happens, perhaps, and convinces her, perhaps even coerces her into these types of environments. And she's hurt because it's dawning on her that maybe hotel nights are not normal. Like maybe she's being coerced into doing something that's not normal and it shouldn't be normalized. That's kind of what I think is happening. And I will say that there are lots of misconceptions about sex trafficking. I think when this word keeps coming up during the trial, people envision girls being kidnapped at a Target, put into a trunk, sold on the dark web, and kept chained up somewhere. And I do think that that does absolutely happen. A great majority, however, of sex trafficking is more psychologically binding than physically. Sex traffickers will typically start off by dating their victims.
That's exactly, okay, so this is how I feel,
Yes.
right? I feel like what's missing from this whole thing is throughout these hotel nights, he is this person that's keep on luring her back with his charisma, like making promises, being romantic. And then she's always caught very off guard at the very last minute. Like,
Yes.
oh, that's still what you want. But even though this happened over and over, he's still charming her back into his arms.
And I think there's additionally on top of that, there's other elements of the sex trafficking of, let's say you meet someone on the internet and they are a sex trafficker. The way that they get their victims is to romance them, get them to fall in love, and then ease them into believing that sex work is a good idea. Like it's something that everyone will enjoy. It's something that'll make them happy. Now, once these women or these victims start engaging in that line of work, there is usually a push to get them addicted to drugs. That seems like an inference that the government keeps making of like, he keeps giving them drugs.
Yeah.
He gives them drugs so that they can go through these hotel nights. Then there's added elements of physical violence. And this is just sex trafficking in general. Then there's the degradation of the victim's self-esteem. It's like, well, what are you going to do? No one's ever going to date you again. No one's ever going to respect you again. You're so far deep, there's no coming out of this. There's potential blackmail. that all starts coming into play. If you try to leave, I'm going to show your parents what you've been doing. Yeah. So you're not always kidnapped. It's not that you can't call 911, but you're still a victim of sex trafficking. Like, there is a reason that sex traffickers employ the psychological Romeo romancing strategy more than physically chaining someone up, because it works. And it seems like if you really look at Jane's testimony, that's what's happening. He's promising her things, he's romancing her, and then he's giving her drugs, allegedly supplying drugs, having these hotel nights, and there are videos in his possession of them doing these things. So it seems like there's a lot of consistent elements. Then a week or so later, presumably back from his vacation, Combs texts her, hello, good morning, I miss you, what are you doing? Let me make it up to you, I don't deserve a chance, you're taking this too far now, let me make it up to you. She does not respond, and eventually they make up, and Combs promises to redo her entire birthday celebration and promises to take her to Turks and Caicos for the second time. Even that becomes a large issue. When she lands in Miami before Turks and Caicos, they go out to dinner, they take a pill, head back to the hotel, and Jane sighs and explains to the jury, we were just together, just us and watching pornography. And then just like in the middle of my high, he says, do you want Dawn? Wow. Jane says that she just agreed because she could tell that that's what would make him happy. They stay up all night with Dawn, and then they get to Turks. They stay up at Turks having intimate relations, just like on a drug binge. And the next morning when they finally wake up, Jane says that she could sense that Combs is getting so bored, and she feels bad for him. And she explains, after that first day, I really can't remember how, but Paul started coming to Turks. Paul is another entertainer. They get him a hotel room in the same resort. Jane and Combs are in a villa. They go to Paul's hotel room and they have a hotel night. And on the way back, Jane remembers being happy because she says, I'd been down and I was just so excited that I just got to cuddle with him. And he gets this like look that he still wants more. And he's like saying, do you have more in you? And I'm like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I didn't really hesitate too much, but I wasn't like screaming for it. And I just remember he calls Paul and invites Paul to our villa. Paul comes to the villa. And before Paul came, I remember Sean giving me a really beautiful bracelet. And I was so happy, and it meant a lot to me that he gave me this really sweet bracelet. It had 2 hearts on it. And I remember I embraced him. I thanked him. I was super happy about it. And I felt really loved by him. And then Paul comes in, and Paul is really nice, but I was tired. They try. But this is what Jane believes might have been their 4th round at this point, and she was just in so much pain. She says, I just don't really remember if I said anything, but I just remember Sean giving me more like lube and trying to lube me up a bit. And I just remember he said something that really upset me, like, oh, you can't take any more D or something like that, and just pissed me off so bad. And I remember I took off my bracelet and I threw it against the wall, and I said, you only brought me here to SD for you, and then I stormed out of the villa. Jane says that she had no idea that the Turks and Caicos trip would devolve into this whole hotel night. But even after she storms out, Combs is chasing after her, and he's demanding. He's like, this is all he cares about. Quote, I remember him saying, like, are you crazy? Like, how can you make me look like that in front of Paul? Combs tells Jane that she needs to apologize to Paul, that she owes Paul an apology. So she texts Paul, and this is from Jane to Paul. Thanks again for coming over last night. It had been 24 hours with no breaks for me, and at first I was going with the flow for the second link up, but I warned him that I just felt so overwhelmed to overperform for a moment I've never done before. I'm not a robot. It's just a mix of tired, hungry, sleepy, sore. And then I guess because she has nowhere to vent, she starts mass texting Paul. Turks was supposed to be us reconnecting again. We didn't speak for 1.5 months because of how he handled me on my birthday. This was our first time seeing each other, and I didn't want to be with anyone else but him. But those are things he wanted, and yes, I agreed because I know it makes him happy, and like I like when he's happy, but he overdoes it sometimes. It's been 2 years back to back on this, and I just want some time alone to reconnect, and as soon as we do, half the trip has been dedicated to just that. So why is it that some jurors look like they're not as engaged and immersed in her testimony when there's clearly emotional moments? And I think it's truly just the deep need for some people to want victims to be perfect victims. To some jurors, there are speculations that Jane just does not come off likable, and maybe that confuses them. There are extensive conversations throughout direct, and especially on the cross that we're going to get to in the next episode, about traveling and vacations. And Jane testifies that she's really, really hurt that every time she does a hotel night, Combs whisks another girl off on vacation. She just wants to spend quality time with him. She talks about how he just keeps taking other girls. And sometimes it comes off, I guess, to some jurors as like
Like
not
superficial?
yes, like
yeah.
perhaps
I think that's not what it is though. I feel like it's more emotional. Like Sean Combs keep promising, it's like Romeo, right? He completely charmed her with this romantic thing, but instead, like that's what it is.
yes, but I do think that's the tricky part of finding the jury for a case like this. I think that sometimes I could see if someone really wanted to feel a certain way, they could say, well, I don't get to take vacations. I can barely pay rent. And you're crying that he took someone else to Turks and Caicos?
Yeah.
I've never even been to Turks and Caicos. I've never even left the country. So I do think that there are certain moments where maybe it seems just from the observable reactions that some jurors do seem really sensitive to materialistic conversations or even money. Jane would say things like, I saw that the woman had a private jet, that he had booked a villa on a nice island with her and her friends and just did such a beautiful birthday celebration for this woman.
Again, that's allegedly Young Miami.
Yeah. And then she'll text him things like, then you use me up for yet another hotel night and get on your jet and go on an island vacation for 5 days to Turks, a place I've been begging you for. Anything outside these hotels, I'm a joke to you. This is about you finally treating me like a human being, a lady, romanced, spending quality time, laughing, togetherness, not just someone you call on a Friday to use and leave me to go treat another woman with more integrity. So on the surface, I guess it could be taken by some jurors that she's crying about not going to Turks and Caicos. But clearly, she says it's deeper than that. She says, I think after I've been made to have sex with 3 guys on my birthday, it was deeply hurtful and emotional for me to see him with another woman on a beautiful vacation and all their ease and all their happiness, whereas I'm alone and recovering from having just slept with 3 men that I didn't want to sleep with. So yes, it was very hurtful in that sense. Not because of his relationship with them, but because of how it made me feel after and during something like that. But again, I don't know how much that resonates with some jurors. Even when talking about her first vacation with Combs, she says that she was super excited that he was taking her to Turks and Caicos because I had never been to Turks. But I do recall in that moment where she's like, because I had never been to Turks, there was like one juror who just is kind of smirking.
Is this the smirking
Yeah.
juror? Okay.
Yeah, and then another one kind of lightly raises their eyebrows while taking notes because, I mean, yeah, I don't think most of us have ever been to Turks. So it just, I guess...
Where is Turks?
I don't even know where Turks and Caicos is.
It's just a very famous vacation spot.
Yeah, it's like, I guess it's up there with like Mykonos and Bora Bora. Very isolated, very expensive to even get there.
I see.
So, I mean, I guess maybe some of the jurors could potentially be rubbed the wrong way over that. I also do think because they are hypersensitive to money conversations thus far, Jane's testimony and especially her cross-examination, there's so much money talk. Jane talks about how one of the bigger wires that she receives from Sean Combs is $20,000. And it's because she had just moved into a new house and she needed furniture, which that's a lot of money for furniture. And I think Sean Combs knows this because he keeps glancing at the jurors. Even the reaction from the gallery is like, ooh, that's a lot. But because the house that Jane chose was very large, the budget wasn't enough. And Jane explains that she opened up 3 credit cards and went into debt to furnish the house. So Combs is glancing at the jurors, and I think the jurors, at least appearance-wise, they don't seem very sympathetic about that. Side note, there's also a lot of emphasis later on the fact that Combs pays for Jane's rent, which is $10,000 a month, which is a lot. Now, in another part, Jane says that she asked Combs for more money for the house because, quote, I needed more money to create like just comfort in the house. It was really sparse. Combs is staring at the jury like, are you hearing this? She wants furniture, so she deserves this. Like, clearly, he's not saying it, but it just, that's the look that it's giving. And it's very interesting at which times he glances at the jurors with that much confidence. And it's always around these like money conversations, especially during Jane's testimony. Now, something that I just want to put into perspective, I think when the jurors hear $10,000 a month, it's a lot of money. I think when any of us hear that, it's a lot of money. However, just to give you an idea, in March of 2023, Combs was reportedly worth close to $740 million, which means $10,000 a month to him is 0.001351% of his total wealth. So if you compare that with the average American's net worth, the equivalent would be like spending $2.61. $2.61. So it's a lot of money, but to him, it's no money at all. I mean, to give you even more perspective on this, the average American spending $10 would be the equivalent of Sean Combs spending $38. That's almost 4 months. And he's spending what feels like to us like $10. But I do think that aside from that, sometimes the text messages, I can see maybe how it's difficult for some jurors perhaps to listen to. Jane even mentions that she's asking Sean Combs for money because, quote, because I was just home in this big house with no furniture and I still wanted to get furniture around this time just to take up a bit of my time. The defense will later bring up another text message thread from Jane to Combs where she texts, baby love, do you think you could send me something for my birthday festivities, please? Just want to get a few things in time and also lock in my friends and family dinner that I would love to do. Let me know. Thank you. I love you so much. Jane says that year, Combs pays for her birthday dinner with all of her friends, but she also uses the money that he sent over to get a few things. What kind of things did you need for the birthday dinner? An outfit. I wanted to cover the bill for me and my friends and just try to have a happy moment in a sad time. How much did you ask him to send you? $15,000? And that would cover all the outfits and the whole birthday? Yes. Again, it just seems like maybe it's not going to be perceived overwhelmingly positively. And there is another moment where the actual courtroom does not seem to have a good reception at all, because Jane tells Prosecutor Comey that she wants to start an OnlyFans, that she wanted to start this early on in her relationship with Combs. And once the first time she mentions OnlyFans comes up, there's like a from the gallery. There's literally, I distinctly recall a scoff. But also, even Combs has his chin all the way up. He stretches it like he just woke up from a cat nap and then back down as she brings up OnlyFans. And Jane is describing, I remember at the time that was when OnlyFans really started to emerge, I told Sean that one of my model girlfriends had been really lucrative on the website. And once I started saying OnlyFans, I remember he was kind of giving me this energy, like very hesitant and like, no. Jane says that she would have only done bikini, lingerie, implied nudity. At one point, Tenny turns to Mark Agnifilo while she's talking about OnlyFans, and they're whispering together, and all I see is Tenny is full teeth smiling. Because I don't think the jurors are liking this. And how much money did you tell Sean you understood you could make if you created an OnlyFans? I just remember my girlfriend told me that she had made $4 million that year, and I just knew that if I had joined at that time, it would have been really lucrative for me. But she didn't because she didn't want to make Combs upset with her. So she doesn't join OnlyFans until 2024. Comey asks her, I want to focus again on January of 2024. How are your finances doing? They were starting to pick back up because I decided to make an OnlyFans. So a few of the jurors' heads, they're whipping from Comey to Jane. Why did you decide to do that? I just wanted to reclaim my independence. And what kind of content did you create? I created lingerie, swimwear, implied nudity, those kinds of things. You said implied nudity. What is that? Where you have your hand on your body and just like in like a sexy, suggestive way, but you're not nude. She does not create content with others, just alone, and this is January of 2024. She says, I just want to be independent. I just want to stay on my own 2 feet. My decision to join the website was truthfully because it was something that I needed. If I could get off that website, I would. I do think the OnlyFans conversation constantly was something that the jurors, I felt, did not react positively towards because we still live in a society. And it seems even when you go online, some people think that Jane did this because she wants luxury items. She wants vacations, private jets. Others think that she did this because she knows who Diddy is and she was starstruck and she wanted to be the next Cassie. Others say she did this because she was coerced, perhaps even through love. I will say there is an audio clip that's played to the courtroom and it's of Combs and Jane, and they are just like, they're having a date. Combs is smooching Jane. Like you hear like nonstop, just kissing noises, and she's giggling uncontrollably. And he's saying things like, I love this right here. And he says, we were both in a low funk, but in a dark hole, Jane came to save him. And she is giggling out of her mind. I don't recall the last time I or anyone in my vicinity has giggled like that.
What kind of video? Like, it's just
like an audio clip.
Oh.
I guess there is a video played to the jurors, but we just hear the audio.
Oh.
And she just sounds like a love-struck teenager. it's not even like something is so funny. Like, you know, when you're dying uncontrollably laughing because something is hilarious. It's not that. It's a very specific giggle that I think like really you only experience maybe in your like teenage years when you first fall in love, like ever you fall in love, like your first love. It's like that level of giggle. She just sounds like she's drunk on love. Like truly, I don't recall hearing anyone giggle like that before. And I think it made a lot of people confused in the courtroom. The whispers in the hallway, people are confused. Like, what does this mean? Was she coerced? Was she coerced and she just loves him too much? Is it something else? And if it already isn't confusing enough with Jane's testimony, and I'm not saying it's confusing for me, I'm just saying it's confusing for a lot of people for different reasons. I'm just stating that. But there is a new element that I will say even I was confused by. Comey wants to talk about the day that his homes get raided by HSI. Agents come over to Jane's door and they also leave a card. Jane does not call them back. She calls Combs. Combs doesn't pick up. She calls his security and tells him, I said that agents were at my home and they left a card. And he said, okay, I'm going to get you Sean's lawyer. She meets up with Sean's attorneys, Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos. But she also ends up getting her own attorneys later that are paid for by Sean Combs. And when this information drops, the jurors, the gallery, everybody is looking at Comey, but also at Jane and also at Combs, looking slightly confused. The press pews are all side-eyeing the attorney sitting right in front of us in the press pews because now you're telling me the defendant is paying your bill?
That's so odd.
And Comey asks, Jane, when did you first get a lawyer in connection with the criminal investigation in this case? I believe sometime late in 2024. Who paid for that lawyer? Sean. Do you still have that same lawyer today? I do. Who is paying for that lawyer today? Sean. How have you paid for your rent since Sean was arrested? Sean still pays for the rent. As of today? Yes. After Sean was arrested, did you meet with his defense attorneys? Yes. Did you meet with them multiple times between his arrest and your testimony at this trial? So after he's arrested, before she testifies? Yes. Approximately when was the last time you had a meeting with Sean's defense attorneys? This is in June. She says, I would say in April of this year. Yes. Sitting here today, how do you feel about Sean now? I just pray for his continued healing and I pray for peace for him. And with that, there's so many questions because what the hell is happening? And why at the end of her direct and at the end of her cross-examination, when she finally gets off the witness stand after a week of doing this, why does she both, on her way out, she stops by the prosecutor's table, seems to hug Comey, then walks towards the defense table and hugs Tenny Garagos.
Like what kind of hug?
It's like a lean down,
Sigh
like
hug?
a hug. What does any of this mean? We're going to find out in part 2 of Jane's testimony that will be up in a few days. So with that being said, we are gearing towards the end of this trial very quickly. I think that after that video, there's a whole Kanye lore video. And then I honestly think we're going to get a verdict sooner rather than later. The defense said that their case in chief will probably take like maybe a week. And then there will be deliberations. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Jane's testimony, because it seems like they saved up the testimonies. I think Cassie had to testify first because she was heavily pregnant and she did give birth like right after. But it seems like they saved Jane's testimony towards the end because the speculation is the prosecution felt like it would have the most impact on the jurors. Mm-hmm. Do you think that that's what's happening? Or do you think it's backfiring? Because people have opinions. What are yours? Leave it in the comments and be safe. And I will see you in the next one.